At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. Join this movement and support this mission. Well, hello, everybody. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am thrilled you are here. Go ahead and drop something in the comments right now, if you haven't already, your name, where you're joining us from, one thing you're hoping to walk away with by Sunday. We want to see this be a space that comes alive with who is here and why. We'll be staying together today, tomorrow, and Sunday, 3 hours a day. And I want to start by saying something really directly. This workshop is free because we want this information out in the world as widely as possible. But free does not mean light on learning. I want to invite you, in fact, I want to ask you to show up for these 3 days the way you would if you had invested $1,000 to be here. Workbook open, fully present, willing to be surprised by what you discover. That kind of participation will give you 10 times the return of passively watching or multitasking. And what we are covering here could change your life and might do more than that. It might help you change the lives of people you love. It might help you change the world. So it is so wonderful that we are here together right now. Let's see, I need to pull up the broadcast page right now so I can see the most recent comments that have been submitted, because I want to be able to also, let's see, here we go. I've got it. All right. I want to see what you all are saying. Jane said hello from British Columbia. Canel said vegan greetings from Sweden. Doreen said on the beautiful Gulf Coast of Florida. Robin said joining from Vermont. Coila said 2025 plant-based coaching certificate grad. Excited to see how the program has evolved. Georgina said hi from London. Gina from Los Angeles. Ty from Massachusetts. Shirley jumping in. Mesut from Miami, Florida. Destiny said joining from New Jersey. I hope to walk away with more knowledge on the connection between health and food and how we can help others learn too. Jennifer said, good morning from southern Mississippi. Joanne said, I'm in Big Lake, Minnesota. I want to look at being a nutrition coach. Chrissy from Michigan said, I want more information to help me keep going. Becky from Pennsylvania said, current certified health coach, hoping to gain something new to share with my clients. Enrique said hi from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Isa said hello from Costa Rica. Mandy said hello from Napa, California. Well, wonderful friends. We are so glad all of you are here. I'm Ocean Robbins. I'm co-founder and CEO of Food Revolution Network. We are a community of more than 1 million people in more than 160 countries who share a belief. We believe food and lifestyle can change lives and change the world. And before we go any further, I want to say something personal. Some of you know that my dad and my colleague, John Robbins, passed away last year. He grew up in the Baskin-Robbins ice cream family, and he took a really different path. We often say he followed his own rocky road. He and my mom moved to a little island off the coast of Canada. They built a one-room log cabin. They grew most of their own food. They practiced yoga and meditation for hours a day and named their kid Ocean. My dad spent much of his life writing and speaking about the power of food to heal people and the planet. His books like Diet for a New America and The Food Revolution helped spark a movement that's still growing today. And I miss him every day. And I also feel him with us in this work. I want to invite his spirit to join us in this workshop right now, because I feel him in every conversation we have about food and healing. And, you know, he lit a torch which I really believe is now in all of our hands. Before he died, my dad told me he wanted to be a force. He didn't just want to rest. He didn't just want to be remembered. He wanted to be a force for good and healing in the world. I think about that a lot, and I think it's part of why I'm here with you this weekend. What my dad started, the torch my dad lit, is lighting up the world now. I'm so grateful to be here with you. So let me tell you a little bit about what we've got in store for you. So today is day one. We call it the health revolution. We're going to make the case today, clearly and with evidence, for why food and lifestyle are the most powerful levers we've got for improving human health. You're going to hear from two of our most respected faculty members, and you're going to meet coaches who have lived this work from the inside out. Tomorrow, Saturday, day two, is the art of change. We're going to go inside the psychology of transformation. We're going to look at what it actually takes to help someone change their lifestyle. Not just know what to do, but actually do it. You'll start to recognize something important. These coaching skills and techniques are learnable, and you'll see that you can do this. Sunday is day three, the opportunity. We're going to answer the question that tends to surface by then, which is, what might this look like in your life as a career, a calling, or a direction? How do coaches build practices? How do they create impact? How can they make a living doing work that matters? We're also going to introduce our nutrition and lifestyle coaching certificate and give you everything you need to decide whether the calling you might feel at that time means this training is the right next step for you. If you miss any part of the workshop, replays will be sent to everyone who's registered every day via email, and they'll be posted on the broadcast page as soon as they are ready. So here's our faculty for today. Dr. Michael Clapper is going to walk us through what actually happens in your body every time you eat, why lifestyle matters, and why the diseases most people think are permanent are far more reversible than we have been told. Nicole D'Andrea Russert, one of the most respected plant-based dietitians in the field and my co-host of the Food Revolution Summit, is going to take on the protein question with more clarity than most people have probably ever heard. Our lead faculty coach mentor, Makini Duewa, is going to host a panel conversation with two of our program graduates, coaches who are going to share the real texture of what it looked like to transform their own health and what brought them to this work. And Tracy Garrigan, our founding program director, is going to guide us through the first of three coaching exercises we will build together across this weekend. So you may want to keep a notebook or the workbook close by. And by the way, the workbook is linked from the broadcast page. We'll go ahead and maybe post that in the comment stream as well now. Now, a few quick things. The comment section is open the entire time. Use it to share your takeaways, your aha moments and breakthroughs, your questions and reactions as they come up. Our moderator, Sky, is going to be will be watching and answering as much as possible. And we'll also pull questions into the live Q&A segments with our presenters throughout the day. And I want to say one more thing before we bring in our first expert, and I'll keep it brief. Think of someone you love who has struggled with their health. Maybe a parent navigating a serious health diagnosis. Maybe a friend struggling who has really tried to change how they eat, but they just couldn't make it stick. Maybe a partner you love who doesn't yet believe in the power of lifestyle medicine and stays stuck, feels trapped in the conventional medical system. Maybe a child who doesn't yet understand how food is impacting their mental health. Maybe you yourself, despite all you know, struggle to make the right choice, the easy choice. What most people have in common is not a lack of motivation or even a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of the right support at the right time from someone who knows how to actually help. The science on what prevents and reverses most chronic disease is not mysterious. We've known for years what helps. We all know we need to eat more vegetables and less processed junk. We all know we need to exercise more and get good sleep and dial down stress. What's missing is most people who are trained to walk alongside others as they apply it. Most of us don't have that friend or don't know how to be that friend that actually knows how to help people tactically and effectively, not just to lecture or prescribe, but to really coach. Holding the space, asking the right questions, having the right resource at just the right time that someone is ready for it, helping someone move from knowing to doing. And that's what this weekend is about. And if any part of you has ever felt called to be that person for someone, you are so in the right place. Now, I want to introduce somebody who has poured enormous heart and expertise and dedication into this program and into this weekend. Tracy Garrigan is a national board certified health and wellness coach with over 16 years of experience. She has coached clients around the world and partnered with medical wellness centers. And in 2023, she founded what has since grown into our nutrition and lifestyle coaching certificate. Tracy is the reason this training is as rigorous, as practical, and as transformational as it is. I'm honored to consider her a friend as well as a colleague. Tracy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ocean. It's great to be with you today. And thank you, everybody else on this call, for joining us. I want to take a few minutes just to orient you all about the program that is going to underpin everything that you're going to experience this weekend, and it's going to help frame what's ahead. So, over the next few days, you're going to get a real behind the scenes look at why real lasting change is possible and how we bring that to life through what we teach in our nutrition and lifestyle coaching certificate. So our certificate is built around three major pillars. Each one is designed to give you the skills and confidence and knowledge to help other people create meaningful, lasting change. The first pillar is nutrition and lifestyle. And in this, you build deep evidence-based foundation in whole food, plant-based nutrition while exploring how movement, stress, sleep, connection, and all the other pillars of lifestyle medicine work together to shape health and well-being. The second pillar is coaching, where you learn human communication skills, practical framework, evidence-based techniques that help you move beyond giving people information and actually support them in making changes that can last a lifetime. The third pillar is our impact pillar. And that's where you learn to take what you've learned in the other two pillars and apply it to the real world. So if you want to build a private practice or bring coaching into a healthcare setting or serve a community that you're passionate about, pillar 3 is laid out to help you do that. And these 3 pillars work together, and you really do need all 3 to help people create lasting change. You can't effectively help someone change their nutrition and lifestyle if you don't understand the science behind what drives health and behavior. You can't effectively support behavior change if you don't have the skills to communicate well and to meet people exactly where they are with discernment and compassion, and to listen really deeply and to know what to share when. And you can't create lasting impact if you don't have a pathway for taking the knowledge and skills that you gain here and applying them to the real world in a meaningful way. So that in a nutshell is what we do. We give you the science, the skills, the path to make a difference and to become a truly powerful force for good in the world. And what's worth naming up front is that this program was built on a foundation of whole food, plant-based nutrition. In fact, originally it was called the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate since its inception back in 2023. But now this foundation it's been more deliberately expanded into the other evidence-based pillars of lifestyle medicine that the health and wellness coaches we train need to know how to embrace. So movement, sleep, stress, social connection, they're not afterthoughts, they are part of the same picture. And a client who is eating well, but sleeping just a few hours a night or carrying chronic unmanaged stress isn't going to get the full benefits of what they're capable of getting. And coaches who understand the whole person learn how to meet their clients in the fullness of that reality. And with regards to nutrition, FRN is famous for a big tent philosophy. Most standard nutrition programs teach the federal guidelines around MyPlate models, or the DASH diet, or the Mediterranean diet, and those are wonderful starting points. But most programs don't go nearly far enough even into those dietary patterns. NLCC leans more fully into the evidence for whole food plant-based nutrition, which means that you'd be equipped to guide people further than those baseline models ever could. And one more thing before we bring on our first expert, and this matters. At Food Revolution Network, We operate with what we call this big tent philosophy in all areas of what we do. You do not have to be eating perfectly to be here or to do this work. You don't have to be fully whole food plant-based. You could be a flexitarian, a pescatarian, a vegetarian, or just figuring out what all of this means. You belong here with us in this room. Every step towards a more plant-forward life is a step worth celebrating. And our coaches are trained to meet people where they are at, wherever they are at in their journey, with flexibility and without judgment. One quick important note, nothing we share across these 3 days will be medical advice. Please consult a qualified health professional for any medical guidance specific to you. And with that, it is my genuine pleasure to introduce our first expert today. Dr. Michael Klaper is a graduate of the University of Illinois College of Medicine and board certified by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. With 45 years plus of clinical experience, he's focused on health promoting food and lifestyle choices to reverse disease and prevent the need for hospitalization and surgery. He is the executive director of Moving Medicine Forward, a nonprofit teaching medical students to reverse chronic disease through plant-predominant nutrition. And we're honored to have him as our lead faculty for the Nutrition and Lifestyle Coaching Certificate. Today, he's going to break down exactly what happens in your body every time you eat a typical Western meal, why the diseases most people believe they're stuck with are actually reversible through diet and lifestyle. And this is a clear science-backed look at why nutrition is the cornerstone of health, but also how it works alongside these other lifestyle factors to support healing, disease prevention, and long-term well-being. Dr. Klaper, I want to welcome you and let you know that the floor is now yours.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you, Osin. So good to see you again, as always. And welcome to everyone who is participating in this wonderful, life-changing, and even life-saving program. It's a real honor for me to be here. So I've been given the task in 30 minutes to tell you everything that happens in your body when you eat food, what can go good with it, what can go bad with it, and what you need to do about it. So fasten your seatbelts. Got a lot of information to go through, but hopefully at the end you'll say, I understand what's going on here. So with that, let me bring up my slides here. Okay, let's try. It's got to share. There we go. Okay, no, that's not going to do it. Let's try that one. Okay, and now let's go to Zoom and share. Okay, now let's hide the video panel. Let's hide the meet controls and let's hit the play button. Okay, how nutrition and lifestyle are the most powerful forces for healing and a thriving planet. Uh, this is a little unconventional way to look at medicine and healing. But the reality is that they don't tell you, but most doctors spend their career battling ogres. These are ogres that we get introduced to in medical school and in clinic. And the understanding is these are fearsome guys that you will never slay. You will do battle with them. You'll knock them down. You think you get the best of them, but they get the best. They get right up and you're going to battle them all your career because they are unbeatable. And we're talking about the ogre of high blood pressure. We don't know what really causes it, the scientists say, but we know what to tell the patient. You'll take these pills the rest of your life. You will never get better. Type 2 diabetes, we don't know what really causes it, but once on insulin, always on insulin, you'll never get better. And clogged arteries, relentlessly progressive, the cardiologists say, you'll never get better. And so the best we can do is what's called, we'll manage your high blood pressure, we'll manage your diabetes, we'll manage your angina, we will do chronic disease management, a really unsatisfying way to practice medicine because patients still wind up in the emergency room or in the autopsy table. I wish when I was in medical school that I had learned the truth that you need to know today, that every doctor needs to know. These are not lifetime curses. These are reversible conditions brought on by the patient's diet and lifestyle, and that a whole food, plant predominant diet, like we're going to learn about today, and a health promoting lifestyle are the keys to that reversal. These two are the most important takeaways that you can get from this presentation. These are not indestructible ogres. These are reversible conditions, and a healthy diet and lifestyle are the key to the reversal. I learned this firsthand when I spent 9 years as an attending physician at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, about an hour north of San Francisco. It's an inpatient facility. People come and stay there for days and days, weeks at a time. They bring in the standard Western diet diseases, obesity, clogged arteries, elevated lipids, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, a host of inflammatory diseases. But instead of doing the usual battle and raising their doses of insulin and raising the doses of beta blockers, we got these folks on a program that got to the cause of these diseases. Everyone there was eating a diet of whole plant foods. Every breakfast, there was a big pot of fresh oatmeal with cut off fruit and sunflower seeds and a variety of plant milks, oat milk, hemp milk, rice milk. Every lunch, every dinner had big colorful salads, hearty vegetable soups, big plates of steamed green and yellow vegetables, a variety of filling entrees, no cheese burritos, no oil stir fries, hearty stews and soups and chilies and curries, and lots of fresh fruit for dessert. We encourage these folks to eat all they want. There was no carb counting, no calorie counting, no portion control. Why? Because what they're eating is they're filling their belly up basically with whole plant foods. And Mother Nature, in her wisdom, made whole plant foods like broccoli and beans out of fiber and water. And they pee out the water, they poop out the fiber. The calorie density is so low that if they go back for a third bowl of vegetable soup, who cares? It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of a whole food plant-based diet. It carries very low calorie wallet, and people can eat to their heart's content and their stomach's content. The changes we saw in these folks were nothing short of spectacular. As they eat these healthy meals, we also gave them cooking lessons so they could keep this whole food, plant-based food stream going at home. Kathy lost almost 100 pounds, lost her medication for blood pressure. Carl came in with psoriatic arthritis, had psoriasis on his knees and elbows, bad sore joints, learned how to eat plant-based. It's an anti-inflammatory diet, sent us this picture 20 months later. Dr. Clapper, I lost the weight and lost my psoriasis and arthritis. Eli was using his albuterol inhaler 2-3 times a day for his asthma. It's an anti-inflammatory diet, especially when you pull out the dairy and the wheat. They spent a little time in the gym. Ali had ulcerative colitis, passing bloody stools. Sent us his picture 18 months later. Dr. Clapper lost the weight, lost the colitis. In the old weight loss programs on TV commercials, they used to have, they showed before and after pictures, that there would be this little crawler, these results not typical. Well, these results are typical. This is what you predictably see when you take people from the standard Western diet full of meat and dairy and oil and sugars and processed foods and get a food stream flowing through them of whole plant foods. They get lean and healthy. Their arteries open up. Their blood pressures come down. Their joints stop hurting. Their lungs stop wheezing. They turn into normal, healthy people right before your eyes. And this is what you are going to help them do. This is the journey you want to help them successfully navigate. Now, we're talking about actual disease reversal. This is not a California woo-woo concept. This is talking about remission of clinical symptoms. The joints stop hurting, the lungs stop wheezing, the skin clears up, but their lab results normalize, their inflammatory markers come down, their lipid panels normalize. It's the most exciting transformation in medicine, and you're going to have a front row seat to make it happen, because the doctors can say, yeah, you ought to eat plant-based, yada, 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 but unless the person actually does it, nothing's going to happen. And you, as the lifestyle, the nutrition lifestyle coach, is the magic ingredient that is going to actually make the transformation happen. I wish when I was a medical resident, some attending physician, some chief resident sat me down and said, look, let's get real about why these people are sitting in front of you in these bodies, overweight, hypertensive, atherosclerotic, insulin resistant, and inflamed. You need to know that if you eat a meal of whole plant foods, have a nice green salad, vegetable soup, plate of green veggies, a scoop of sweet potatoes, you have a meal like this. And if an hour later, when you weren't looking, I sneak up on you with a needle and a syringe in my hand and zip draw 5 cc's of blood into a glass tube, let it clot, spin it down in a centrifuge. When I pull the tube out, this is what we see. The red clot goes to the bottom. The serum on top is crystal clear. You can read newsprint through normal serum. This is what your blood should look like after you eat a healthy plant-based meal. But you have a standard Western meal. You have bacon and eggs for breakfast, a cheeseburger for lunch, chicken for dinner, dairy during the day, like most of your patients are going to be eating, or else they wouldn't be asking for your help. You draw their blood and spin it down. It looks like this for the next count them 5 hours. What is this stuff? This largely triglycerides, saturated fat, oxidized cholesterol. It's the fat of the animals people just ate. Now, not everybody has such an obviously dense wave of fat go through the bloodstream, but everybody has a wave of fat. How can you not? Where else is it going to go? And I was serious about that 5 hour number. Here they gave someone a fatty meal at hour 0. They drew blood once an hour for 6 hours. They took those 6 blood tubes, put them one after another into an instrument measuring how fatty the blood is getting. And you can see the blood is getting fattier and fattier and fattier. It takes the liver about 5 hours to begin to clear the blood from all this fat. And during these 5 hours, evil things are happening. The bad cholesterol is going up. The blood's more viscous, it's thicker. Because the saturated fat's making the red cells stick together, takes a higher pressure to force a thick blood through capillary beds. As the fat in the blood goes through the abdominal fat stores, it sticks there, increasing obesity. We'll talk about that, making insulin resistance worse and raising blood sugars. And it's a pro-inflammatory fat, saturated fats. So this is what's happening hour after hour, because most people in our wealthy country don't tolerate hunger if they're hungry at all. If they're at home, they put their head in the fridge for yesterday's leftovers. If they're out, they hit the restaurant. And most people are keeping their blood fatty all day. Now, I focused on the fat here, but there's more than fat in this blood, which you need to understand as you're doing your nutrition coaching. What goes through the bloodstream, thus through every tissue, every cell in the body, after every bite of a cheeseburger, pepperoni pizza, buffalo wing, you eat the typical meat and dairy-based fast foods. I could spend 40 minutes on this one slide. We don't have that time. I'm going to quickly run through it. Saturated fat thickens the blood and increases inflammation. The sugars in the cola drinks and the ketchup and the white flour sticks to proteins and creates these advanced glycation end products teeming with free radicals that damages proteins throughout the body. Fragments of animal muscle leak into the bloodstream, setting off autoimmune disease. The high salt in the content of the cheese and the meats and the chips raises blood pressure, increases heart failure, but also opens the door to autoimmune disease. Cooking the meat, grilling the burger, frying the chicken, broiling the steak rips electrons off the proteins, creating free radicals that then rip electrons off the person's DNA and their cell membranes. Cooking meat creates these advanced glycation end products teeming with free radicals that ages our tissues. Emulsifiers make the ice cream soft in your mouth, but it also dissolves the intestinal mucus that lines your small intestine. Cooking the meat oxidizes cholesterol molecules, rips electrons off of it, and oxidized cholesterol is more likely to cause plaques in the artery walls. Endotoxins from the bacteria in the slaughterhouse that make the gut leaky. And grilling the burger doesn't get rid of the endotoxin. Trimethylamine oxide is created in the gut for people who eat meat and eggs, and the bacteria create it that then drive cholesterol into the artery walls. Cooking meat creates cancer-causing substances that smear on the stomach wall and giving gastric cancers, the colon wall. When you eat these high-protein foods like meat and dairy, The liver responds by putting out a surge of insulin like growth factor 1, a powerful growth promoting hormone that will fan cancer growth throughout the body. Heme iron makes red meat red, also increases the risk of strokes and cancers. Don't have time to go through it. The animals in the feedlot are fed bushels of grain sprayed with herbicides and pesticides. They drink water with cadmium and mercury and lead. They're given hormones and antibiotics as growth promoters. All of these toxins accumulate in the animal's flesh. They're in every burger, every chicken breast. Cooking fats and protein at high temperature creates reactive aldehyde that damage your genes. You may just be having a ham sandwich for lunch. You don't want to damage your DNA, but these mutagenic aldehydes will do that. Nu5GC is a sialic acid that only animals make, and it sets off inflammation throughout the body. And our paleo friends and carnivore friends are giving themselves a shot of Nu5GC 3 times a day. These are just some of the molecular marauders that flood through every tissue, every cell in the body. After every meat-based meal, I call it the red tide. It's a fatty tide, it's salty, it's sugary, it's antigenic, sets off immune reactions. It's acid forming, mutagenic, it damages your genes, sets off cancers, it clogs arteries, sets off inflammation, inhibits enzymes throughout the body. This is what your patients who are asking your help are flooding their tissues with every bite of the standard American meal. And if you eat it 3 times a day over the course of a year, it's over 1,000 times they're flooding their tissues with these molecular marauders. And it's like, meat and dairy-based fuel is the wrong fuel for our plant-eating human body. If you pour kerosene, which is diesel fuel, into your gasoline-burning engine, you can't be shocked when the spark plugs cake up with carbon. Well, our metabolic engine will also malfunction if we're giving it the diet of the mountain lion. And so this has real world implications. This creates real world diseases. The guy with the clogged arteries having an angina episode, the lady with the asthma pulling on her albuterol inhaler, the man with the type 2 diabetes injecting insulin, the woman with the acne scarred skin from her dairy consumption. Food effects over time have real health effects. Well, the good news is these are reversible effects, but there's no great misses. Now, not etiology unknown. Yes, there's genetic factors. Yes, stress plays a role. Yes, there are lifestyle factors. Genetics plays a powerful role. But what brings it out by and large is the food these people are eating. So finally, the person gets to that point where they know they got health problems. They got to change something. So they wind up on your website or calling you or having a counsel saying, "Tell me, coach, what do I need to do to get my health back?" And knowing what you now know about the effects of the standard Western diet on their organ systems, the best piece of advice for number one, not the only one, but the good place to start is, to the greatest extent possible, start consuming a food stream of mostly whole plant foods. Here's what happens if they follow that. Now, people can do this gradually, and some people may phase it in to their food cycle, one breakfast at a time, the one lunch, a soup and a salad and a sandwich lunch, great. But if they can do it all at once, they get the most dramatic improvement. So for the sake of our argument here, our demonstration, let's see the person has, and say, "Okay, doc, I'm through with eating dead animals." Or, "Okay, coach, I'm through with eating dead animals. I've cleaned out my fridge. I've cleaned out my pantry. I've gone shopping. So I got the rice and the beans. And my fridge is full of produce. And I'm starting to eat these lovely salads. And I just made a great vegetable barley soup last night. I'm on the plant-based wagon, boots in." Here's what happens. So you need to know the power of what you are advocating. First, here's a person still eating the red tide foods. Now they finally stopped. There is respite. Every cell in your body has instructions on how to repair damage to the DNA, to the cell membranes, but they can't function optimally, these repair mechanisms, if every 4 hours a flood of red tide marauders is flooding through a bunch of free radicals and salt and sugars and AGEs. Can't keep your tissues healthy. Now that's stopped. There's time, the repair can now happen full tilt. Do you know that in every cell of your body, you have in the nucleus, you have your DNA strands where your genes are located. And on these strands of DNA, you have proteins, little globs of proteins called DNA editing enzymes. And they spend all day going up and down your DNA strands looking for damage. And if they find it, they fix it. They don't ask your permission. They're repairing your DNA 24 hours a day. It's a miracle. But we got to let that function optimally. So stop the red tide. Once you do that, these molecular marauders are replaced by an entirely different set of molecules. I would normally take 30 minutes to go through this slide with the medical students, but understand, I'm going to quickly run through this, and sorry for the rapidity. These are on my video entitled "What I Wish I Learned in Medical School About Nutrition." You can get it on my website. First of all, you've now changed the food stream. It's now a high water content food stream. All the soups and the salads and the steamed veggies and the fruits are full of water. And as this water comes into the bloodstream, the blood becomes less viscous, it's more free flowing. And that brings a surge of oxygen and nutrients flooding through the capillary beds of the brains, the heart, the muscles, the kidneys. The green vegetables they're now eating increases the production of nitric oxide in the walls of the arteries, and the arteries dilate a little bit, and that sends another surge of blood through the brain and the kidneys and the liver, and it also lowers the blood pressure as the pipes get wider, pressure comes down. When you pull the animal fat out of the diet, you're pulling out the arachidonic acid, which is a main driver of inflammation. Now all the fats are coming from plant oils, many of which are in the omega-3 family that has an anti-inflammatory effect. So what you've done with this one move, changing from an animal-based food stream to a plant-based food stream, you've changed the inflammatory balance of tissues throughout the body from a pro-inflammatory to an anti-inflammatory one. If the person's been eating sugars and oils and fried foods, their cells are full of free radicals, the reactive oxygen species that are ripping electrons off their tissues. They're like molecular terrorists. You want to quench those free radicals. Well, that's what all the colored fruits and vegetables are about. They're colorful because they contain molecules that quench free radicals. So tissue aging slows down. It quenches the oxidative stress. When you change the food flowing through the intestine, you're going to change the microbes that live in that intestine. If you've been eating meat and dairy, you're fostering the growth of pathogenic organisms from the Firmicutes phylum, not friendly critters. They cause inflammation of the gut wall. They promote cancer growth. Pull out the meat and dairy. Now all the food material moving through the gut is from plant origin with lots of resistant starches from the legumes. That's going to foster the growth of the Prevotella microbes, much more benevolent microbes. They have an anti-inflammatory byproduct. And also, these microbes happen to put out chemicals that make you feel good. These microbes put out dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin and oxytocin. These are feel-good molecules that work their way up into the brain, and people often feel more positive when they go plant-based. When you stop eating other animals' cholesterol, your own blood lipids are going to become less atherogenic, less likely to form plaques. Your skin oils will smell less. The guys say, ever since I went plant-based, my wife says I don't stink anymore. That's because these are now plant oils in their skin instead of animal fats. People don't realize that the cows and the dairy now are pregnant, and so there's lots of estrogen, official mammalian estrogen, not puny little phytoestrogens in soy, but but these are official estradiol, estriol, pregnanediol, estrone that have estrogenic effects, gives women breast lumps, give guys man boobs. Well, when you convince yourself you're not a baby calf and you use oat milk on your cereal instead of cow milk, the hormone levels go down, prostate cancer risk goes down, breast cancer risk goes down. High protein diets are not gentle with the kidneys. When all the amino acids slam into the kidney filters, it forces them to go into a state of hyperfiltration, which can lead to kidney disease and dialysis eventually. The people with asthma find their mucus gets less thick, they wheeze less, white blood cell counts goes down because you're not priming the bone marrow with the endotoxin 3 times a day. These are just some of the profound changes that happen in organ systems throughout the body when one changes from the animal-based food stream to a plant-based food stream, so much so that the answer to the question, what does changing to a plant-based food stream change? Everything changes. It's a different physiology. The blood is more free-flowing, it's less inflammatory, it's less oxidative, the microbiome is different, blood lipids are different, hormone levels are different, everything in the body changes, and that is what opens the door to these remarkable changes that you are trying to help your clients achieve. This is not, again, California woo stuff. These folks have different physiologies from the left image to the right image here. And you need to know that this is the power of the change you are trying to bring about in their bodies. And these factors that you are mustering up to work in their favor are real. Now, yes, you need the other pillars of lifestyle medicine. They got to take a walk every day. They need to manage their stress. They need loving social support, get enough sleep, no alcohol or cigarettes, or moderate alcohol, whatever that means. But it starts with a whole food plant-based diet. Now, I don't have time to go through this, but yes, plaque can actually melt away from a diet of whole plant foods, and the arteries can actually heal. And you get these tremendous improvements from a man's heart artery filled with atherosclerotic plaque. 29 months of the program you're advocating will turn this artery into that artery. The folks with the type 2 diabetes, it's not a congenital problem. And it's not the sugar they're eating. The high sugar is the tail of the dog. The problem is the fat they've been eating. The fat piles up in their liver and their muscle cells, and it keeps insulin from working. It's all the fat. And the high sugar is the tail of the dog. It's the result of clogging up the liver and the muscle cells with fat, so insulin can't work. Well, we got on a whole food, plant-based food streams naturally low in fat. So as the person eats this day after day, they wind up metabolizing the fat that's already in the cells, and the liver cells and the muscle cells clean out, and insulin starts working fine. It's a reversible disease. I wish someone had told me that. So absolutely, high blood pressure can come down to normal on a whole food plant-based diet. Type 2 diabetes can reverse, and arteries can open up. The whole food, plant predominant diet, and healthy lifestyle changes everything. It's the treatment for obesity in this age of Ozempic, and many of your patients are going to be on Ozempic, and that's not a problem. These are powerful drugs. They have some benefits, but no one wants to be on Ozempic forever. There comes a point you want to get them off, but your clients are going to be afraid that, if I stop the Ozempic, the weight's going to come back. Yeah, if you keep eating cheeseburgers and buffalo wings and pepperoni pizzas, yes, the weight will come back. But what you want to do, health coach, is to help these people use this time under the umbrella of the GLP-1 activities to learn how to eat a plant-based diet. So then when they do taper off the drug, and it can be done, tapered off safely, the weight won't come back. And so it's not evil that they're on these GLP-1s, but use the time as a bridge to healthy eating so they can taper off without having the weight return. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. You can expect your folks with lots of inflammatory conditions to get better, including folks with lupus and autoimmune diseases. The red tide is not gentle with the gut wall, and as it sluices through, and it sets off colitis and Crohn's disease, but whole food plant-based diet changes the microbes in the gut and opens the door to remission. Crohn's disease and colitis, you can give encouragement to your patients. The asthmatic folks will wheeze less. The psoriasis folks can look forward to getting skin better. Do they have to be 100% vegan? No, they don't. And a small amount of animal flesh once or twice a week probably is not going to have huge adverse effects. There'll be a little different microbiome, but it won't be 100% adverse. But I'd rather have them eat the flesh once or twice a week as a medicinal addition to their diet rather than 2, 3 times a day that most Americans eat animal muscle. Nobody needs to eat animal flesh 3 times a day. Mountain lions don't even eat animal flesh 3 times a day. And some people may need to gradually taper. I'll help them do that, and start bringing in the plant-based breakfasts, lunches, and dinners gradually. And so that I'm going to eat my meat twice a week. Okay, we'll take that. No need for conflict here. Work with them. Eventually, they get to the point where I really don't want to be eating this anymore. But they'll reach that at their own rate with your encouragement. So we're getting to the end. The message I want to leave you with is what Dr. Colin Campbell's trying to get us to understand. Don't focus on how much vitamin B6 is in a rutabaga, how much niacin is in a carrot, and whether the person has a little bit of meat once or twice a week. As he wrote in his book, Whole, the issue is the whole nature of the food stream moving through the gut and through the body. And if that whole food stream is a steady stream of soups and salads and green veggies and curries and the whole plant foods here, a little bit of meat once or twice a week is not going to be terrible. But you want to have the whole food stream, basically the carrier stream is whole plant foods. And the other thing to keep in mind is the power of persistence. The power of what you're advocating, all the wonderful benefits of a plant-strong diet, all those phytonutrients that you're going to be flooding through the tissues of your client, meal after meal, week after week, month after month. It has the action of here's a sandbar in a fast-flowing river. Well, what's going to happen to that sandbar? The current is relentless, and it's going to keep sweeping sand away on a steady basis, and inevitably that sandbar is going to get smaller and smaller, and it's finally going to disappear in the current of this fast-flowing river. Well, when it comes to disease in the person's body, the inflammation, the obstruction, inflammation throughout tissue, obstruction of arteries, obstruction of airways, obstruction of nerve flow, imbalance in hormones, imbalance in stress levels, dysbiosis, all these things. And the river here we're talking about is the food stream of those fresh green and yellow vegetables, the fresh fruits, that whole plant food stream, meal after meal, week after week, month after month, will shrink away. The inflammation will start to subside. The obstruction starts to subside. The imbalances correct themselves. The dysbiosis clear. And finally, they disappear. And so the last image I'll give you here, just to keep in mind what we wish for you, what I do at least, is this situation. You see these people standing by a polluted, clogged up stream. But this is a special stream. This man is the steward, the owner of the land, the owner of the stream. This is his family. And this isn't a real stream. This is his life energy. And these are his arteries. This is his gut. This is his blood pressure. This is cholesterol. He's all clogged up. His life energy, he's hovering in the swamp of disease here. But these people are you folks, the nutrition and lifestyle coaches. You're looking at the same problem, but you're there to help them unclog this stream that's been clogged up by poor diet and lifestyle choices. So your job is not to clean it out, but it's to show them how to do it. Now, here these two coaches are getting on, they're showing, and she's pointing out, here's what you need to do. Here you pull out these stones, these sticks. And what this means in your real life is you need to get into these people's lives. You need to have them, you may need to have them send you their food diary. You may want them to, when you get to know them, to walk over to their fridge with their cell phone, open up the fridge, and with their cell phone, show you what's really in their fridge. Have them send you what they did activity-wise over the weekend. You need to get into their lives and show them how to get unstuck. But you don't do it. They must do it. Your client is the one who has to do the work. And here you see the man, the owner of the stream there, but his family has to help as well. And they're the ones that will eventually correct the obstructions and the pollution. And finally, you can all celebrate when the blood pressures come down, the patient's off the medication, they're feeling good, and everybody's happy that he's not going to have a heart attack or stroke, and the health coaches can feel, yes, we are reached that stage where the healthy life energy is flowing freely again. That's what you are embarking upon for a professional activity here. Now, this is how to help your individual clients, but as Ocean is going to be telling you, it just so happens that the very same plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle practices that are going to help your individual patients regain their health are also the very same changes that Mother Earth needs to have as people become more and more plant-based. The forests will come back. As the trees grow, they will take carbon dioxide out of the air and reverse global warming. The soils will stop eroding. The rivers will run clean. The oceans will heal. People can be fed so we can stop killing each other in wars. And the earth and its people and the animals will be healed. That's the bigger patient, but you're also going to be working to accomplish that. So a lot of stuff. I don't know if I went too far over 30 minutes here, but hopefully you get the idea, the power of a plant-based food stream and a healthy diet and lifestyle to reverse these diseases. You're not the doctor. The doctor has written the orders. The dietitian has laid out the diet program, but you are the folks who actually will help them go. They'll take you shopping on their cell phone. They don't know how to steam vegetables. They don't know how to do a lot of things that you will know how to do. And you are going to be the actual life-saving factor in this program. So I wish you great success knowing all the people you are going to help. Okay, so with that, I will stop the share.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Clapper. I love you, Michael. I love your passion. I love your insight. I love the many decades, many decades. Well, I mean, you're young and you've also been at this a little while, like my whole life. And you are just so insightful and brilliant, and it comes from the heart. And I think we can all feel that, you know. You care about every single person who walks into your office, every single person who attends one of your lectures, and you want them to be well. And we feel that. Friends, we're going to take a few of the questions that have come in. There's a lot of them. We don't have a lot of time, but we'll cover what we can. But first, I just want to underline one thing. What you've just heard is not just one person's opinion. Dr. Clapper is talking about the same eating pattern that is found in the blue zones, the regions in the world where people live the longest and healthiest lives. It's not a fringe idea in medicine anymore either. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine, the American Medical Association, the major organizations focused on cancer and diabetes are all recommending whole foods, plant-based diets as evidence-based approaches to preventing and reversing chronic disease. So what we just heard is where many of the most forward-thinking leaders in the field of medicine are or are heading. Okay, now I want to get to some questions real quick and see what we can cover. Melanie said, I'm so happy you're here, Dr. Clapper. I've been following you for many years. So appreciate who you are and what you do. Thank you for all of it. A lot of people asking about slides being shared. So we're going to have a replay of the video from all 3 days of the workshop, and you'll get, as you're registered, you'll get emails with links to the replay, so you can watch them later if you want to, or catch up on what you missed, or go back and watch everything again. Pause on any slide and take as long as you want with it. We're not set up structurally to be able to deliver all of the actual PowerPoint presentations to everybody, but the replay will have to suffice. Leah asked, how does this affect arthritis, gout, and fibromyalgia?
These are all inflammatory diseases. The final common pathway on all of these is inflammation. And this is a profoundly anti-inflammatory diet. So that alone, as you flooding the tissues with all these anti-inflammatory substances with every meal, that damps down the inflammation. Now, some of them, the gout is driven by the uric acid generated by too much high fructose corn syrup and too much meat. Well, this diet pulls out all of those. So depending on the various conditions, there's something in it for everybody. Most people experience partial or complete remission of their pain on a whole food plant-based diet. And that's all we can say without going into the individual conditions.
Thank you. Yeah. Carlene said, wait, I thought nuts are bad for some conditions.
Nuts are not, if you are someone with such severe clogged arteries that you get angina pain walking to the mailbox, you shouldn't be eating handfuls of nuts. That's true. You should be on a low fat, the whole food diet. Yeah, but other than that, a small handful of walnuts, unless you're all clogged up there, I think is beneficial for most people there. Just it's only the folks with the bad blood vessel disease you should be wary of too many nuts.
Thank you. Um, Jerry said, and we could go a lot longer on this, but we'll try to keep it quick. What about the Plant Paradox program where you avoid grains and plants with seeds that contain lectins? Some of the
Oh
foods you
my.
promote contain lectins.
Oh, that whole lectin thing, people should really disregard it. Lectins, they are carbohydrates that can latch onto proteins, but they're destroyed by cooking. Don't eat raw beans, and all beans are cooked. You should always eat beans that are so soft that you can squish them between your fingers. If that's the case, there's no lectins, there's need to worry about. And humans have been eating whole plant foods and salads forever, and they haven't been dying of lectin poisoning. And so disregard that those doctors are making money off of fears that really have no scientific basis. Don't worry about the lectins, but cook your beans. Don't eat raw beans.
And we do have an article that goes into more depth on this. If you go to foodrevolution.org and type lectins, you'll find it. Speaking of which, we've got over 1,000 articles on critical food and health topics. Some folks have been asking, and we're not going to get to these particular questions necessarily, but about protein or about iron or lots of other topics. And I've been linking in the comment section to those articles, but you can just search for them. And if you're interested in a topic, the odds are we have covered it at foodrevolution.org. Let's see. Kim said, I love these workshops. My one issue is I'm completely whole foods plant-based, sugar, oil, salt free. I'm now losing too much weight. I can't eat enough with the warm weather. Looking for more than just eat more.
Yeah, this she's got the mirror image problem here that most overweight people, that most Americans are, which we want to build her up the other way. So, where whole plant foods are high in fiber and water, but very low in calorie density, she needs to do a judo flip on that. And so, calorie density is important. So, if she Googles something called vegan weight gain smoothies. Now, there's ways to make up a smoothie and load it up with nut butters and protein powders and things so every swallow is going to give a delivery of calories and protein and essential fats. And she should make an art form of finding ways with every soup she's making to throw in soy kernels or ways to get increased calories and protein into everything that she's eating. And it's doable. And then you got to go to either the gym or take a walk with a weighted vest and build up those muscles. That's the most important thing. You want to put on fat, you want to put on muscle. So use that protein that you're eating to turn into Superwoman.
Yeah, because you want the weight in the right places,
Right.
not around the
Absolutely.
midsection.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. John said, my primary care physician just told me that I would always be on my hypertension medication, even though I reduced my blood pressure numbers dramatically through diet. I am looking for a new PCP.
As you well should. And God love him or her. And that's why we've established our Moving Medicine Forward initiative. So you never hear those words coming out of a doctor's mouth. It's embarrassing to hear that these days. So yes, you should find a new PCP. If you go, I don't know if we have a doctor finder attached to FRC, but if you go to the Plantrition Project,
Yeah.
or look up a plant-based telehealth or Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They have doctor finders, and you type in your zip code, and you can find a doctor. And this works very well by telemedicine as well. Yeah, get a doctor who knows that hypertension is a reversible disease, and work with them to get off those pills.
And the website we recommend is plantrition.org. Like plant and then nutrition kind of combined together.org. And that's where you'll find directory of plant-based doctors and also coaches, certified plant-based coaches. We have about 125 of them from certified by Food Revolution Network. So if you're wanting some coaching, there's a great resource to find folks. All right, friends, we got lots more questions, but we're not going to be able to get to all of them. We'll try to answer what we can in the comment section as we go here. Love all the questions. Thank you for your curiosity. It is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. May you never stop asking questions. Dr. Klaper, absolutely love your presence here. Thank you so much. And we'll just keep on rolling. I'll let you just say goodbye here if you want to.
Yes, you folks have embarked upon the most wonderful helping profession of all. And as you can work with people in their hour of need in these amazing human bodies and this beautiful plant-based food, and you'll help heal the planet as well. So go forth, do great work, and enjoy every magical day that this career will bring you. And thanks to all, everyone who's making this program happen. All the best.
Michael, thank you so much. All right, friends, we've just heard the case for why food is so powerful. What Dr. Klaper described isn't a distant possibility. It's happening in real people's bodies right now because of choices they make at the dinner table. And the question that naturally follows for so many of us is, what should we be putting on our plates? Getting specific, what about protein? That's what we're going to focus on now with Nicole D'Andrea Russert, MSRDN. So Nicole is a plant-based dietitian, author, and yoga instructor whose work spans optimal health, mental well-being, and environmental sustainability. She is the author of The Fiber Effect and The Vegan Athlete's Nutrition Handbook. She's co-author along with me of Real Superfoods and Powered by Plants. She's been featured in Eating Well, Women's Health, Forbes Health, and has co-hosted with me the last 2 Food Revolution Summits. We are honored to have her as lead faculty for our Nutrition and Lifestyle Coaching Certificate. And today, Nicole's going to take on this question of protein that comes up so often. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you, Ocean. Hi, everybody. It's truly an honor to be here and to be a part of the faculty on this esteemed program. It really is. And today, as Ocean mentioned, we are going to talk about probably the most common question we get in this field or in general. How do I get enough protein, especially on a plant-based diet? It's a very common question. So at the end of this presentation, we are going to hopefully leave you with some answers to those questions and some concrete examples that you can practice in your own life and also share with others in your coaching practice or with family and friends so that we can break some of these myths and set the record straight on plant protein, which you just heard some just a wonderful presentation from Dr. Klaper. So we're going to build on that. Okay, so let me share my screen. All righty. I am going to do this. Won't be as much finesse as Dr. Klaper. Let's move this over here. Okay, there we go. All righty. Okay, so the protein question. So what the science says about plant versus animal protein, and then also just about getting enough protein in general. So why does this conversation matter? Well, if you have shopped in a grocery store lately, if you've watched the news or seen any headlines online, if you have seen the new dietary guidelines for Americans, you may have noticed that protein is front and center. So when we go through the grocery store, protein is on the labels, high protein. If there's even a food that is naturally high in protein, manufacturers are adding even more protein to it to make it even higher. And in daily conversations, I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I'm speaking with family and friends or colleagues, we're talking about nutrition in any way, usually the most common topic of conversation is protein. And I'm just trying to focus on getting more protein, or how do I get more protein? And then also the dietary guidelines really played into this conversation. Recently, they were released, emphasizing a lot of protein. So today we're going to talk about what do we actually need and what type of protein is truly better. You've already learned lots from Dr. Klaper. Thank you, Dr. Klaper. So he set us up perfectly for today's conversation. But we're going to answer the question, like, are you getting enough? And then also, the broader question that I would love for you all to leave with today is, what else comes with my protein? So let me get rid of this. Just to emphasize and show you how abundant protein is throughout the food supply. It is found in all plants, first of all. So some protein-rich plant-based sources are the category of legumes, so lentils, chickpeas, black beans, peas, soy foods, tofu and tempeh, and soy milk and edamame, and they've got nuts and seeds, a variety of nuts and seeds. Whole grains are one category of foods that oftentimes we overlook, but can be an excellent source of protein, especially the pseudo grains like quinoa and buckwheat. They are packed with protein and really high in all of the amino acids. And then even veggies, it's not something we think of, I think, when we reach for our protein-rich foods, but when I am looking at diets of clients and just kind of adding everything up, especially those for those that are exclusively plant-based, I add up all of the protein from the entire day, and I'm going to share more about why in just a moment. But I add up all the protein for the entire day, and veggies really do add up. So you might get like 4 to 6 grams per serving from vegetables, and it really makes a difference when you're adding everything up, and getting that variety and enough calories is really important. And then, of course, I think commonly what most people are familiar with are the common proteins that we have, so many of us have grown up with. So adding meat to the plate, whether it's beef or chicken or fish or eggs or dairy, those are the foods that we typically reach for when we think of protein. So I just want to emphasize, oh, why is this not going? Sorry, hold on one second. Okay, there we go. I just want to emphasize that there are so many options for protein beyond meat. And I want to take a second to look at the full package. So again, the common question is, am I getting enough protein, or how do I boost my protein? But what we're not asking is, what else comes with my protein? So Dr. Clapper spoke to this as well, but I just wanted to share here some of the differences between plant and animal protein. So plant protein, when we consume protein from plants, so tempeh, lentils, black beans, chickpeas, those whole grains I mentioned, we are getting such a complete package of nutrition. We're getting dietary fiber for one, and more than 95% of people in America are not getting enough fiber. So really the question should be shifting, how do I get enough fiber? But we can do both by eating plant-based protein. We can get plant protein and fiber in one package. Animal protein has 0 fiber. And then phytochemicals, the phytonutrients that were discussed earlier, are so important. These are compounds that plants make as a part of their defense system. So through adverse weather or insects, plants create these compounds to protect themselves. And when we consume these phytochemicals, these compounds that plants make, they protect us. They benefit us. The only way meat or animal products have these phytochemicals, the phytonutrients, is by way of eating them. So we can bypass the meat and go straight to the source. So for example, if somebody is consuming beef that has been grass-fed, they may be getting some of the phytochemicals from that grass through the beef that they're eating. But one, it is definitely not going to be the extent that you're getting in a plant-based source. It may be minimal amounts. And then two, again, we can skip the beef and go right to the plant. Obviously, maybe not grass, but through any plant-based foods, any foods coming from the earth. And then antioxidants, so animal proteins are generally lower in antioxidants if they have any at all. Vitamins and minerals can vary between the two. So plant proteins tend to be rich, like, for example, black beans are rich in folate, magnesium, potassium. Those are low in animal products and most animal products, whereas animal products do have vitamin B12, which can be low in plant protein. But I will say with a caveat that some, a lot of times, for example, like in factory farms, that B12 is also supplemented in animals. So again, we can bypass the meat and go right to the supplement if we need to take one if we're exclusively plant-based. So it can vary the vitamins and minerals, but I will say another advantage for plant protein is that it's lower in saturated fat. Again, Dr. Clapper talked about this, so I won't spend a ton of time on it. But we will come back to it in just a little bit. And then I think one of the most important topics of conversation and the advocacy for plant protein is, again, the fiber and the phytochemicals that support a diverse gut microbiome. And we've been talking about inflammation. So much of the inflammation that results in systemic inflammation and long-term chronic disease states, so much of it stems from gut health. And when we take care of our gut by feeding it fiber-rich foods and phytonutrient-rich foods, our gut takes care of us. So inflammation is less in the gut, and then inflammation systemically is often seen. So really, so much nutrition starts in the gut. And then again, this was discussed already, but the high temperature cooking byproducts, you're not getting the same carcinogenic high temperature cooking byproducts in plant protein compared to animal protein. And that's because of the saturated fat and the type of protein in animals when it's cooked at high temperatures, especially. Now, one thing I will say, and you'll hear this argument as coaches or in everyday conversations, that our plants is a protein from plant-based sources as digestible or as well absorbed compared to animal protein. And it depends. The answer to that depends. So plant protein, about 70 to 95% of plant protein is digested and absorbed, whereas most of the animal protein is absorbed. And that is because of the fiber. Fiber kind of can it's like this whole matrix of nutrients in plants, which this matrix is one of the benefits in plants that we're going to talk more about in just a minute. But that it takes a minute to cleave that protein off of that fiber, and most of it will be absorbed, but some of it may not, and some of it may be discarded. So like something that the 95% will be your low fiber soy products like tofu or soy milk. It's got a very high digestibility, whereas beans may have a little bit lower because they're very high in fiber. But the goal is not to decrease fiber in order to increase protein. It is or the absorption of protein. It's to include the fiber too and get enough protein. And we're going to continue to talk about that. So looking at the full picture, so this is what I just referenced that I would like to talk just briefly about is the research. And you can go back to when you're watching the replay of this, please take a screenshot of the next slide I'm about to show that actually cites the actual research. So if you'd like to do some further reading, you absolutely can. But when researchers look at dietary patterns, so again, long-term outcomes and what people are eating day in, day out, they're looking at food frequency questionnaires over years, they are finding that they're getting higher fiber intake, more phytochemicals, and then ultimately lower cardiovascular disease risk, reduced inflammation, better metabolic health, and lower all-cause mortality. And this is the slide that if you want to take a screenshot of this, either now or later when you watch the replay, this has the research that includes the research studies that some of the keystone studies that I'm mentioning. Now, these are like systemic reviews and meta-analysis are looking at very large cohorts, prospective studies. So you can see hundreds of thousands of adults, men and women. And what research shows is that higher intake of plant protein results in lower all-cause mortality and lower cardiovascular mortality. And what's important here is that it's not just that we're adding plant protein, but it's also that we're replacing something that is inflammatory. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing, as Dr. Clapper mentioned. You can replace just 3% of your daily energy from animal protein with plant protein and get the reduction about 10% lower all-cause mortality. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Of course, if people want to go all in on plants, we fully support that. And this coaching program supports you in doing that and helping others go fully plant-based. But this is really just to say, small changes make a really big difference, folks. Like it really, and I find in my own personal practice that really tiny steps lead to the most success. And each tiny step every week, at the end of the year, if you keep adding tiny steps throughout each week and each month, at the end of the year, people have a lifetime of steps that have added up to lifestyle changes, and it can really make a profound difference in their health. Again, it's not just with the plant protein, it's adding plant protein is about what it replaces. So you're not just adding fiber and phytochemicals, but you're also, by way of adding plants in place of meat, you are decreasing your saturated fat, your cholesterol, your heme iron, which has been linked to stroke and cancer risk. You're decreasing the carnitine. So it's not just about increasing those things, the fiber and the phytochemicals, but it's also about what it's replacing. So you're really getting profound health benefits. So when the focus is just on boosting protein, I have this conversation often with folks, I want to increase my protein, and they have their eyesight on just the protein. And again, so many of us were raised with meat or animal products as the ultimate protein source. So when the focus is only on protein and people are reaching for that beef or dairy or eggs and really trying to optimize, like maximize their protein, I often see not enough fiber consumed and also these phytochemicals. So they end up leaving plants off the plate. And what this results in is less microbial diversity. That decreased microbial diversity, or dysbiosis as it's called, can lead to inflammation in the gut. Then that can lead to systemic inflammation. And then long term, that can lead to the disease outcomes that we have been talking about. So it's really important to get a variety of plant-based foods and replace at least some of that animal protein with plant-based proteins. So one common myth that we hear is that plant protein isn't complete. This is something that came out in the 70s. It is time to break this myth. All plants have all 9 essential amino acids. Some of them have adequate amounts of all 9 essential amino acids, meaning that they are right on par with any animal products. That includes tofu and soy milk and edamame. It includes some of your seeds like hemp seeds and chia seeds, even pistachios, some of your nuts as well. And then also nutritional yeast is a complete protein, and some of the whole grains that I mentioned, some of the pseudo grains that I mentioned, like quinoa and buckwheat. So there are complete proteins. Some plants are a little bit lower in maybe 1 or 2 amino acids. They're not completely devoid of them, but they're a little bit lower. So beans, for example, are lower in an amino acid called methionine, and rice is low in an amino acid called lysine. There used to be the idea that you have to eat beans and rice together to put this puzzle together and have a complete protein. But what our body does is it maintains a 24-hour amino acid pool where it can pull proteins together at any time it needs to. So the important thing is to eat a variety of protein-rich plant-based foods throughout the day. You don't have to pair anything together. You don't have to combine. So the important thing is to get enough daily protein, spread protein out throughout the day, and that will provide you with all of the essential amino acids that your body needs. Now, where I see plant-based eaters fall short. So somebody who, comes to me and says, I want to either go, start adding more plants to my plate, or I've been trying to eat more plant-based, but they're used to having meat as their main protein source and then a side of grains, maybe a side of vegetables. What I often see is when you take meat off the plate, they're often left with an empty plate, and maybe they're just eating more of the starchy foods and the vegetables. I have to admit, I did this myself when I first went all in. I was eating pasta every night because I didn't know until, I got my first cookbook and it showed me how to make a delicious plant-powered, protein-rich, plant-based meal. But I was doing pasta every night of the week until my husband was like, we have to change this up. And he was exactly right, because long term, that would not have been sustainable. So I do see folks in this kind of same ballpark where they're not eating enough calories, they're not replacing the animal protein on their plates with a protein-packed plant. They might be underestimating protein needs. So, they're as we get older, sometimes like our appetites can change, or even just like in general, we see people skipping breakfast, or as we get older, we might just have a piece of toast and a cup of coffee for breakfast. That is where we miss an opportunity to increase protein, especially the plant protein in a meal, which can help to regulate blood sugar, it can help to regulate cortisol levels, and it can set us up for success for the rest of the day. So really emphasizing a plant protein with each meal is important. And then relying on highly processed foods. So people who are going vegan for ethical reasons, if we see vegan products in the grocery store that are ultra processed, some of them might be fine, but some of them may not have a lot of protein or fiber. So really emphasizing whole foods, back to the legumes, whole grains, vegetables, and kind of creating that plant-powered plate. Using whole foods is really important. And then also, we're going to talk more about this, but like activity levels, times when you're not feeling well, maybe you need a little bit more protein to support your immune system. Ooh, I don't know what happened here. That was weird. Sorry. Hold on one second. Oh, here we go. Well, you saw an answer to a question that I'm going to ask at the end. Hopefully you didn't catch that. I wanted it to be a surprise. All right, we're going to get back into this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I do want to talk about when the actual RDA for protein, and then also when more is actually needed. So again, there's so much emphasis on protein from a manufacturing perspective, and manufacturers are trying to boost it because the consumer demand is there, and then the new dietary guidelines didn't help place that emphasis on fiber where we really need it versus the protein. But protein is really important. I mean, we know that it's important for muscle mass. We know that it's important for bone health, for our cellular health. I mean, it's important for a lot of things. It's important for blood sugar management. So we do need protein, and it is rightfully, at the top with fiber for a reason. The RDA states that we need, and sorry, this is a typo, it should be 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. That's basically the minimum that most people, an average healthy adult, needs to maintain nitrogen balance, or like not break their muscle protein down. But it doesn't account for activity levels. It doesn't account for decreased absorption in certain foods. It doesn't, or even in certain individuals. It doesn't account for times when we need a little bit more, when our immune system may be broken down a bit. So I just want to state that that is the minimum that we need, that healthy average adult needs. There are studies looking at older adults over 65 years and older, both men and women. There's an expert group that looked at the protein needs through many research articles, and it has been pretty well established in research. It's not an RDA yet, but at least not here in the United States. But it is recommended that older adults do get 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram per day. And that is for several reasons. One, we tend to absorb less as we get older. Two, our muscles respond differently as we age. They're not as responsive. So when we're younger, when we eat protein, our muscles might like just soak up all that protein and respond and have anabolic effects. When we get older, our muscles, it takes a little bit more and quality protein for our muscles to respond in the same way. And then also we want to support our immune system, daily functions, and of course, bone health. So we do tend to need a little bit more as we age. And then for those who are active, on top of being over 65 years, they may need up to 1.6 grams per kilogram per day. Now this, I just want to say, these numbers sound really high, and this is actually similar to what the new dietary guidelines, by the way, aren't an official RDA. That was that's a whole nother conversation. But I will just say it might sound like a lot to some when you see 1.6 grams per kilo, but I want to really emphasize the power of plants here. When you are consuming more protein in the form of plants, that's where you start to really see those lifestyle benefits that Dr. Clapper mentioned that we saw in those research studies. So long-term outcomes are much more improved when we're emphasizing plants for those high protein needs. That study, the ProTage study, and by the way, again, that study was on that slide. So if you want to take a screenshot when you rewatch this later, you can and look at that study. During perimenopause and menopause, we may need protein a little bit earlier. So as women's estrogen declines, it can happen, typically it's mid to late 40s, early 50s, but for some women it's earlier. So identifying the symptoms of perimenopause and understanding that your protein needs may increase during this time can really help to balance blood sugar. It can help with some of the hormonal fluctuations that we experience. It can help with metabolic functions. So, and I think also very important as we enter the phase of perimenopause and our estrogen declines, we are also susceptible to muscle loss, and again, that same anabolic effect. We don't have the same anabolic effects in muscle that we did when we were younger. And then, of course, bone health becomes a big concern. So protein is important for all of these things. So again, looking at 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram per day in women who are going through perimenopause and menopause could be beneficial. And then athletes, this is another group where protein needs do increase, and it depends on the athlete. For all of these folks, like I will say the protein needs, these are, as you can see, I'm giving you ranges. Everything is so individually based. It depends on the person, their age, their activity level, their health status. So it really just depends on their individual circumstances and biological needs. But overall, in general, the International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that athletes need about 1.2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram per day. Endurance athletes may need on the lower side, a lower end of that spectrum, and then strength training athletes may need a little bit more. But again, it's very individualized. So once again, so important. When we are emphasizing more protein in any of these populations, it's so important to emphasize more plants, because if they were getting the amount of protein, that amount, I'm going to give you an example in a second, but a high amount of protein that was all animal products, they are going to be getting all of the things that Dr. Clapper mentioned in his presentation. So the saturated fat, the heme iron, the carnitine, these substances that can disrupt our gut microbiome. And then on top of just getting animal protein, they're not getting the fiber and the phytochemicals that can contribute to gut health and overall health and less inflammation. They're going to see some long-term effects from that. So again, emphasizing plants wherever we can. Even if it's when we're working with clients, I mentioned small steps earlier. If we can just replace, if they're having a burger, Sunday night is burger night and they still want to have their burger. I would maybe work with them and present the option of, well, could we add maybe a quarter of a cup of beans to your burger, and you still get some of your burger, but we're going to add some beans in there. Those beans are going to add some fiber, and it's going to displace some of that meat. So at least they're getting a little bit of the benefit. So they're getting more fiber, they're getting less saturated fat, and they're supporting more diversity in their gut microbiome. So those small types of recommendations can really be, and by recommendation, I mean, I'm deciding this alongside a client, and this is what you would do as coaches, or even when speaking with family members and friends, like you're having a conversation and trying to advocate for more plants because you deeply care about their health. presenting ideas, or Ocean mentioned curiosity earlier. I think it's really important for all of us to lead with curiosity and ask our loved ones and our clients questions like, what are you willing to do? Can we negotiate? Or what fits well with your lifestyle? And then you can present the options on what can be helpful, but then letting them take agency over their own health and empowering them to make those own decisions. So what does this actually look like in practice? What does 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram look like in a 150-pound individual? So it'd be 68.1 kilograms. The overall goal would be about 68 to 82 grams of protein a day. And I gave you an example here of how that can add up. So again, if whole grain toast alone is really not enough, you can add hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are a wonderful source of protein. So I often do this on my avocado toast. Sometimes I'll add like tofu crumbles over top of the avocado toast. Lunch can be a lentil and quinoa bowl. We've got lentils, quinoas, tons of veggies, and then a tahini-based sauce. Snack, this has a cup of soy milk here, but another snack that I really love is roasted chickpeas. Of course, you could do hummus and vegetables. There are definitely ways to optimize snacks and make them high fiber and high protein. And then dinner, a tofu and veggie stir fry. So here you can see it adds up pretty quickly. We didn't need any protein powder. The times when I see protein powder used are oftentimes if an athlete is struggling to meet their caloric needs or their protein needs, I should say, through plants alone, then we might add some protein powder to those meals. Or an older individual who doesn't have an appetite to consume all the protein they need, we might add a plant-based protein powder. So those are the times where it might be appropriate. But I always try to do a whole foods first approach to optimize, because you're not just getting the protein back to that whole package, you're getting a whole matrix of nutrients in that plant-based protein that is going to facilitate optimal health. So practical strategies incorporate more legumes. So we tend to be legume deficient here in the United States, at least, not in other countries, but here we don't eat a whole lot of legumes daily. We definitely don't eat them daily, maybe a couple times a week, and it's not much. But if we can try to incorporate legumes daily, that would be a wonderful way to get fiber, protein, the phytochemicals, and also, some of the essential vitamins and minerals like the magnesium and potassium and the folate that we all need. And emphasize, especially those who are wanting to go exclusively plant-based, it's really important to emphasize protein-rich plants at every meal. So again, adding the hemp seed to the avocado toast, or having beans with your salad, not just a salad, but adding lentils or chickpeas to it, or edamame. Eating enough calories, that's really important too. As Dr. Clapper mentioned, plants are so nutrient rich and they're fiber and water rich that it's easy to actually underconsume calories, which is why plant-based eating is also so effective when it comes to weight management. But there was a question earlier about weight gain. I think just emphasizing some of the tofu is a little bit lower in fiber, so getting tofu throughout the week, and then also just making sure you're getting enough calories overall. Some of the whole grains can provide more calories than maybe some of the vegetables, but of course we want like a plant-powered plate. I mentioned this down below. To give you a visual is similar. You can see it here on the screen. It's you've got about a quarter of the plate that is your plant flour protein. In this case, it's the chickpeas. You've got a quarter of the plate that is your whole grain. This looks like quinoa. And then half the plate is going to be fruits and veggies. So that's what we're aiming for. That's what it looks like. So we have a protein-rich plan at every single meal. Spreading protein out across the day is also really important. Thinking whole food first, I just mentioned that. Consider this question every time you eat or every time we're speaking to somebody. Even if they don't change one thing about what they're eating, ask them, what can you add to that meal that is fiber and protein rich, that includes both? So it's going to be a plant-based food. So, again, using the burger as an example, if they're adding a little bit of beans, or even if they don't want to do that. Can they add some other plant-rich proteins? Can they add some like hemp seeds to their meal? Can they add, the beans to the salad and a little bit of tofu to a stir fry? So like any way they can swap some of that meat protein or animal protein with plants is beneficial. I want to say one thing quickly about the eating enough or spreading protein out across the day. There was an interesting, I didn't list it here and I can provide it if anybody wants it, but there was an interesting study um, that showed back to the digestibility and absorption of plant-based foods. Yes, the digestibility of plants can be lower than meat. The plant protein can be lower than meat. But what's interesting is that there are studies looking at when the amino acids actually reach the blood. So for like meat protein, yes, the amino acids, or when they reach the muscle, for meat protein, the amino acids can reach the muscle pretty quickly. They're digested pretty rapidly when we're talking about protein. They reach the muscle pretty quickly, stimulating muscle protein synthesis. With plants, there's a delayed effect. It takes a little longer, and it is due to the fiber and maybe some of the phytochemicals in the plants. But eventually, I think what was really interesting about this study that I saw, eventually those amino acids, most of them do reach the muscle and reach the amino acid pool, but it just takes time. So the point of this, I think, is really to emphasize the importance of including a plant protein at every meal, because your breakfast may show up actually at lunch. Your plant protein at breakfast may show up at lunch, and your lunch plant protein may show up at dinner. So again, spreading protein, plant protein out across the day is helpful. Okay, so this is exciting. This is fresh off the press. So Dr. Klaper mentioned, the environmental detriment with animal protein as well. If you go through the grocery store, you see labels on packages like, it maybe lowers heart disease, or like in the case of, I'm trying to think of a good example, or like high fiber, high protein. So you'll see like single nutrients that are shouted out on a label, or, whole grains. You don't see a lot that really helps to make you make an informed decision for overall health or the planet, like planetary health, and you definitely don't see something that combines both of them. So there is a researcher at the University of Cambridge in the UK who has established something called the BPI score. It's the Better Protein Institute, and he is scoring products. He started only with 20 so far. This is like phase 1, and he's working on phase 2. So he looked at 20 products, plant-based and animal products, and he's looking at the outcomes in people and the planet, and comparing the protein. So he's looking at things like the saturated fat, sodium, cholesterol, how complete is it in protein, how affordable and accessible it is to people, so important. And then also looking at greenhouse gas emissions for the planet, water pollution, land use, and water use. And what he found out of all of the proteins, so these are some of the examples. He looked at beef, he looked at eggs, he looked at cheese, dairy cheese, and he looked at nuts and seeds and beans and tofu. The winner was, I went to it quickly earlier, so if you saw it, you know what it is. But if not, surprise, tofu. Okay, so the tofu ranked number 1 because it is a complete source of protein. It's low in saturated fat. It has really low emissions when we're speaking about planetary health. So you can see some of the top contenders here based on his scoring system, and then the bottom, which means the risk for health and also their impact on the planet's health. So it's interesting. And just to give you an example, tofu versus beef and how big of a difference tofu has 105 times lower greenhouse gas emissions per 100 grams of protein. So it's a really big impact on the planet. Every time one of us makes a decision to eat a plant-based meal or a plant-based protein, we are making a really drastic intake on the planet and our health. So the key takeaways, yes, protein is very important. So it should be a part of the conversation, but so should fiber and so should the whole package. So it's not really so much, most of us don't have a protein deficiency. Most of us are not getting enough fiber. So I think the important question to ask is what is coming with the whole protein package? So looking at everything that comes along with your protein. Because the evidence shows that plant protein, again, can support healthy aging long term, your muscle mass, bone health, athletic performance, especially recovery, and then just long term health. And yes, so we're going to start reframing our question. I am going to pause there. I'm not seeing, oh gosh, okay, let me stop sharing. Here we go. Okay, sorry. Okay, I think I got done in a decent time. I wasn't watching the time, so I was a little nervous.
That was amazing, Nicole. Just so much wisdom and insight and so comprehensive. And I love how practical you got, which of course is one of your geniuses, because you've been helping people implement this stuff for your whole life. You don't just talk in theory, you talk in practice and you bring it into the kitchen and you help everybody bring it into the kitchen. And you know, that's as McKinney says, that's what puts the blueberries in the bowl, right? Is that practical piece. So thank you. That was amazing. And so helpful. We do have a lot of questions. So if you don't mind, I'll just jump right into a few of them now.
Yes, that'd be great.
For the few minutes we've got for that. Cynthia said, Nicole, you are outstanding. Thank you so much for this fabulous presentation.
Thank you.
Emma asked, I love this information. One thing that throws me off is I've heard many people talk about the benefits of eating meat that's been raised without added hormones, GMOs, and antibiotics and has been pasture raised. What would be the plant-based arguments against that eating? Are there actual studies that prove that clean meat can have health benefits? I can address that if you like, or you can.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll just say a few words. So Emma, thanks for asking. From an environmental standpoint, there's a lot to prefer about animals that live in a natural way rather than in factory farms. And from an ethical standpoint, it's a huge difference, right? Obviously, the animal is still killed, but it can live in a good way. And that matters a lot, I think, personally, as a human being of conscience who wants to have a more compassionate world. From a health perspective, there's not actually any particularly good research on dramatic benefits from eating meat that was raised in a more natural way, partly because, you know, to do such a study would take a long time. And people generally who eat meat don't all eat it all from one source or another. And even if they say they do, it may mean different things. Because a lot of factory farm meat has tried to confuse consumers with pictures of, you know, happy chickens running around in a pasture or, you know, on the package. So people think it's from happy animals, even if it's not. So how do you define clean, so-called clean meat? What does it actually mean? Is it grass-fed and grass-finished? All sorts of factors come in. So it's hard to say. There's some good reason to think that meat from animals that are not grain-fed, that are raised in a natural way, is going to be leaner, have a healthier nutrient profile to some extent, but a lot of the same concerns exist. It's not dramatically different. In fact, grass-fed beef has more saturated fat overall. So it's multi-layered. I don't think we know for sure. Certainly, as a human being who cares about the well-being of animals, I say if you're going to eat meat, please make sure they lived a good life. It really matters. And then from a health perspective, you know, we're still learning more. But whole foods, plant-based with lots of fiber is clearly beneficial for the vast majority of people. And as you've learned today, plant proteins are important too. Evelyn asked, what about keto? I'll just say we've got a great article that goes in depth on keto at foodrevolution.org. Just type keto and you can learn more about it. There's a lot of different ways to do a ketogenic diet. They're not all heavy on meat products. Most people do it that way, however, and that has real downsides, and they end up very deficient in fiber. Let's see. Evie said, how do you address the need for omega-3s, especially in childbearing populations?
Great question, Evie. Yeah, thank you. So omega-3s, plants are are abundant in omega-3s, but a specific type of omega-3. So flax meal, chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, even like Brussels sprouts, tofu has some omega-3s. So the type of omega-3s, the ALA in the plant is actually it's very beneficial. It's anti-inflammatory. We need 1.1 to 1.6 grams per day for women and men. The problem is, I should say the challenge is that we need to convert a certain amount of the ALA into DHA and EPA. And there's like not a recommended dietary allowance for these, but we know that they're beneficial. DHA and EPA are beneficial for eye health, for brain health, again, for inflammation, for cellular health. We don't know how much of that ALA is converted, but it's roughly, it could be between like maybe 5 to 7%. Women are better converters than men, probably because we have children and we need it, and nature is beautiful like that and knows that our babies need it for their eyes and their brain health. And so all that said, we often recommend that plant-based, like exclusively plant-based eaters, including during pregnancy, people should consume an additional supplement, DHA, EPA supplement in the form of algae. You could, just to see if you actually need it, to see if you're a good converter, you could get it what's called an omega-3 index. It checks your levels to see whether or not you actually need that supplemental algae-based supplement. And by the way, fish get their omega-3s through that same algae. So again, we can bypass the fish and go right to the algae. But there are some wonderful algae supplements on the market if your omega-3 index is low. Yes, it is recommended during pregnancy. So yeah, I would go the route of algae-based versus fish-based. You also get less contamination. And from a planetary perspective, algae-based is much more sustainable. So yes, eat all the flax, the chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts. Again, that package, same thing with the omega-3s. They're packaged with a ton of nutrients, so it's important to include them. Throughout your diet, those plant-based dietary patterns, but you may want to look into getting the algae-based omega-3 supplement on top of it.
And I'll just add, we're learning more about this all the time in the Nutrition and Lifestyle Coaching Certificate. We go deep into this, and we also cover the latest research as it's coming up, which is constantly being updated. So one thing we are seeing is that a lot of people who don't eat fish can have low omega-3 index levels. And there's a lot of research coming out that's showing that you want to be over 6 and ideally over 8. And a lot of long-term vegans can be in the 4s and 5s, and that's not great for brain or even maybe cardiovascular health. So, a supplement can bring those levels up in your blood. That's clear. What's less clear is whether it confers all the other benefits we associate with having higher blood levels. There's some recent research coming out on fish oil that showed that fish oil supplementation did not lead to the level of benefits for cardiovascular or brain health that were anticipated from bringing blood levels up. So we're still learning more. We don't know if algae-based supplements would have the same effect or not, because this was on fish oil supplements. But what I want to say is it's worth paying attention to. I think in the absence of more information, absolutely, if you don't eat fish, taking a good gram a day of long-chain omega-3s, or at least getting your omega levels tested, is a really smart move. If your levels are fine, then great. But if they're not, then get up there. And also, of course, getting ALA is helpful through flax and chia. That's great. And that's great for a lot of reasons. A couple tablespoons a day of ground flaxseed is just such a healthy habit to get into, really healthy. And if you do choose to eat fish, go for low mercury fish like sardines, and are like particularly lower on the food chain too, and less contaminated and less environmental impact than the more problematic fish are things like tuna or shark especially, which can be really loaded up with heavy metals and other toxins because they're at the top of very long food chains. Okay, Ranjina said, I'm on a plant-based diet, but eating lentils and beans causes a lot of bloating and gas. How do we avoid this?
Yes, Regina, this is a very common experience for many, especially for those who are just starting on a plant-based diet. And if you all move on to vegan coaches, which we hope you do, this is probably one of the number one questions that you'll get, in addition to how do I get enough protein, is how do I incorporate beans without getting the gassy side effects? So first I will say, a little bit of gas is normal, especially as you're increasing the amount or increasing the variety, going from lentils to eating black beans or chickpeas. It may create some gassiness and distension initially. It depends on the person, but I see people that is resolved within a couple of days. Some people might take a couple of weeks. The most important thing, Regina, is I think is starting slow. So maybe if you weren't eating all plant-based before and you are exclusively plant-based now and you had a larger increase, depending on the amount that you're currently eating, maybe cut back a little bit and see if you're having the same effects. So if you're eating a cup a day, maybe go to half a cup a day or even a quarter of a cup a day. So depending on how much you're eating now, cutting back, maybe just trying one bean for now to see if there is one culprit that is causing more of the gas. Before going on to a variety. So I would do that first. And then for anyone who is listening who wants to increase their bean consumption, sometimes we start as little as like 2 tablespoons a day of cooked beans. And then we'll do that for a week. And then go to a quarter of a cup a day, 4 tablespoons, so a quarter of a cup a day. And then maybe we start to increase variety. So really tiny, like small steps up so that people can adapt without getting those adverse, feelings that accompany it. But it's normal. Like I celebrate a little bit of gastritis. I'm like, yeah, your microbiome is working. You're feeding healthy gut bacteria. And it means they're, having a party down there. They're happy and they're doing what they need to do. They're producing byproducts from eating the fiber in the beans, and that those byproducts that the bacteria produce are those anti-inflammatory compounds. It's what's going to help with metabolism and brain health and just so many things. So a little bit of gassiness is to be celebrated.
Little bits to be celebrated. A lot can be bad for your social life. So yeah, it's a balance. All right, friends. Well, we are out of time for Q&A, but I've got to cover a few quick points. I'm not going to name the specific questions, but I'll just make a few statements responding and you'll know who you are. So a lot of people asking about caloric restriction and getting enough protein. The less calories you consume, the more important it is that every calorie counts. That means you got to be really intentional and super nutrient loaded, including protein. So yes, if you're eating low calorie, then high protein percentage of calories becomes more important than ever. Not that you can't do it, you just got to pay attention. If you're looking for a protein supplement, there's a lot out there. I like to look for one that is third-party tested for heavy metals because that is a concern with the protein powders. And Complement makes one that is. And if you go to foodrevolution.org/protein, you'll see our whole article on protein, which goes into a lot more depth even than Nicole's covered today. And it also includes a link to a discounted price for Complement's protein powders. And let's see, other folks have asked about hypothyroidism and avoiding soy. So here's the deal on that. Of course, this is not medical advice. Talk to your own healthcare provider. In general, hypothyroidism and soy go together just fine. The issue is that if you're taking thyroid medication, soy can interfere with absorption. So it's ideal to wait at least a half hour to an hour after taking your thyroid medication before eating anything. And it's ideal to wait at least 4 hours before consuming soy for optimal absorption. If you do consume soy daily, say you have soy milk in your coffee every morning, an hour after, your doctor can work with you on that, and they may just increase your dose a bit based on your blood levels, because the key thing is consistency, but it can throw things off. So if you're not consistent. Okay, that's all we got time for on the questions. Nicole, thank you so much. And everybody, you get to learn a whole lot more from her if you join the Plant-Based Coaching Certificate. We'll be telling you more about that a little later in the workshop. Nicole, it's been so great to share this time with you.
Thank you for having me, Ocean. Thanks everybody for tuning in and your wonderful questions. And I hope to see you in the coaching program.
All right. There's also a handout of plant-based protein sources, protein in plants handout. We're going to go ahead and put it in the comments section here. If you refresh the comments, you'll see in a couple of minutes, you'll see the most recent ones that have been submitted, and you can see the link for that. All right, so now, before we move to the next part of our day, I want to invite you to do something that might be a little bit unusual for an online event. I want to ask you to set down your pen for a moment, not take any notes right now, and just be here. And take a deep breath in and let it go very slowly. You've absorbed a lot of information in the last couple hours. Dr. Clapper walked us through what actually happens inside your body when you eat, why the diseases most people believe are permanent are often more responsive to lifestyle than medicine has traditionally acknowledged. Nicole shed light on one of the most controversial areas in nutrition with very specific clarity that I think is going to stay with you. All of that is important. It's the foundation. But here's something I've learned in more than 2 decades of this work. Knowing is not the same as changing, and changing is not the same as sustaining. The gap between understanding what's good for you and actually living it, that gap is where most people get stuck. And it's where coaches become indispensable. So before we bring you into a conversation with 3 coaches who have lived this journey from the inside out, I want to ask you to shift gears with me from the head to the heart, from evidence to story. What you're about to watch is a short clip from coaches who trained in our plant-based coaching certificate. Some of them came in with their own health crises. Some came in as caregivers who had watched someone they loved suffer. Some simply felt a pull toward this work they couldn't quite name yet. What they have in common is this: something in their life cracked open, and through that crack, something new became possible. And then they decided to help others find the same window of opportunity. As you watch, I want to invite you to notice 2 things. First, do you recognize yourself anywhere in what they're sharing, in the struggle before or in the possibility they found on the other side of it? And second, do any of these coaches remind you of someone you could be for the people in your life who are still stuck in the before state? You don't have to answer either of those questions out loud, just let them sit with you. And now let's play this short video.
I was confused by all of the information that's available on the internet. I tried various diets and dietary changes to lose weight and to solve some of my medical problems, but none of them were sustainable long term. During the program and after, I lost 45 pounds. I got off both of my blood pressure medicines. My cholesterol returned to the normal range. So everything has worked really well. My doctors are pleased. My A1C is now in the normal range. My BMI is in the normal range. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I didn't learn these things early enough to prevent that. But even for me, I had minimal side effects during my chemo treatments, and the whole food plant-based diet plus fasting mimicking diet protocols using whole plant foods really helped me on this journey with my cancer. And so I'm grateful for everything that I learned in the program and happy to be able to support others. I also host a cancer support group, and I really promote whole food plant-based nutrition and lifestyle changes for the people in that group as well.
I'm an occupational therapist who transformed my own health through plant-based eating, including losing 40 pounds and dropping my cholesterol over 100 points. I wanted to help my patients do the same. Food Revolution Network's coaching program gave me the science and the coaching skills to make that happen.
What I know now is the journey I've been on my wellness journey for 19 years was the blessing. And that takes a lot of work to find, by the way. But now I know. I went through so much, so many lows and scary and terrifying moments in my life. Very, very, very dark days of not feeling well for a very long time. All of that so that I could experience it, so that I could know all of the things and have all of the tests and see hundreds of different doctors. All of that was to build me to become who I am now, to do what I'm about to do, so that I can truly speak from experience about pretty much anything. I feel like almost, not all, but I was diagnosed with almost everything. So I know what the tests are like. I know what it's like to talk to the doctors. I know all of these things. So I no longer, which is huge, I no longer look at that as a waste of my life and lost. I kept saying, I lost the biggest part of like my younger years, and it was like this the sadness and this depression about it. And now it's like, oh no, no, no. That happened so that I can do what I'm about to do today. And then it led me to FRN, and then it led me to the certificate, so that now I'm way more informed and going to be a much better coach to be able to get my word out in a much more profound and impactful and knowledgeable and confident way. So this program has definitely made the shift.
The saying that pain pushes till vision pulls pretty much sums up my journey of how I got to FRN's coaching program. I had a health crisis about a decade ago that brought me into many medical doctors' offices of different specialties and primary caregivers and to hospitals. And I was prescribed all kinds of drugs without any kind of diagnosis. And step by step, I started integrating and eating a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, and slowly my health started to get better, and then it became drastic.
Ocean, you're muted.
I was muted. There we go. Now you can hear me. Such words of wisdom were coming from my mouth. Okay, well, thank you for watching that beautiful, inspiring video with us. You know, what really touches me here, friends, is the reality that everybody we were just watching, you know, they went through dark nights of the soul. They went through pain. They went through suffering. They found support, and now they're helping other people. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you've been through some tough stuff in your life. I'll bet you have. And you want to make a difference. You want to contribute. Maybe you're still on your learning journey. You know, you don't have to be at the end goal in order to help other people along. Sometimes the best teachers are also students, right? So we're all in the learning journey, but we're also maybe reaching a place, maybe you've reached a place where you want to help others. And if that feels true, if that feels resonant, then we want to help you. And that's why we're here. So thank you for your passion, your courage, your conviction, your interest in being a part of the change on this planet, and being a part of this movement. We are so grateful to be here with you. So let's see. I am just looking at what our outline is here, and one moment here, friends. There we go. Okay. Just making sure I'm in the right spot in our day. So we're going to hear from Coach Makini Duewa now. She is a national board certified health and wellness coach. She is a childbirth doula. God bless, bringing in the next generation with love and care. She's an educator. She's a community health advocate with more than 23 years of experience at the intersection of body, mind, identity, functional and plant-based nutrition, and lasting change. She runs her own practice, Makini Integrative Health, helping individuals and groups and organizations reclaim their vitality and step into the fullest expression of their health and life. And she is a treasured part of the Food Revolution Network team. We are so honored to have her as our lead faculty and coach mentor for the Nutrition and Lifestyle Coaching Certificate. You can find her at makinihealth.com. And Makini, welcome.
Thank you, Ocean. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. This has been incredible. And now I invite all of you to take a breath with me for a moment. You have just taken in so much science and evidence, and all of that matters deeply. But right now, I want to invite you to set it aside for a moment and just listen. What you're about to hear may be one of the things that you carry for the longest from today. Every person watching right now has a body, you have a story, you have a healing journey, and maybe you are in the middle of yours, and maybe you're just at the beginning to imagine a different chapter. Maybe you're here because someone you love needs something and you're still looking for what that is. What these three women are about to share with you uh, is for you. And so today I get to introduce you to three graduates of our original plant-based coaching certificate, the program that is the foundation of everything that we are sharing this weekend. And these are not polished AI-generated testimonials, nor were the former. These are honest personal shares from these incredible people, and I'm so excited to introduce them today. So here we go. First, I want to introduce Ashley Katz. She was having multiple seizures a day in 2019, and instead of surgery, she chose nutrition and lifestyle as her medicine and reduced them and reclaimed her power. Now, FRN certified health coach, functional nutritionist, and PhD candidate. She helps women with neurological conditions do what she did, heal. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And Bonita Garfalo found her way to plant-based living 8 years ago while navigating autoimmune conditions and profound loss. That healing journey became her calling. And today, as a FRN certified health coach, she weaves nutrition, mindset, and whole person care into one integrative approach for every client she works with. Welcome, Bonita.
Hello.
Hello, good to see you. This is so fun for me just to see our students right here with me. Okay, one more. Last but not least, Amanda Sanchez. She knows what it feels like to be trapped in a painful relationship with food. After the birth of her second child, she found her way out through a whole food approach and deep, deep personal work and hasn't looked back. So today, as a FRN certified health coach, also a podcaster, she helps others find that same freedom. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you again, too. All right, you guys are in for a treat and a really powerful segment. I already have chills, and we have 20 minutes for this part, so let's just dive right in, shall we? Yep, okay. All right, so we want to begin with the beginning, the before, and so my question for you, and I'm gonna skip around. I may get to everyone all the time, or I may, or I may just call on certain folks. So know that that's happening. So the question is, take us back to life before this path, before the healing. And so not necessarily the diagnosis or the number on the scale, but what did it actually feel like to live in that body of yours and in that chapter of your life? And I think I'll begin with Ashley.
Okay. So I was at the time having 6 seizures every day. And in my body, I felt not only I was scared. I was scared of my own body. I was scared of what was going to happen next. Would I get hit by a car? Just going outside. I was waiting for the next seizure. I didn't feel like I had an ally. I didn't feel like doctors were listening to me. I felt like a burden to my kids, to my husband. And I had grown up with a mom who had multiple sclerosis, and I was her caregiver. From the time I was like 6 years old, I was caregiving my brother, my baby brother. Like I was changing his diapers and taking care of him. And I felt like I was repeating the past. I was going to become the person who needed caregivers. And so I was desperately afraid of repeating the past. I was afraid of just being alive, and I was afraid of what my future was going to look like. I knew I wasn't going to be able to hold a job, and I felt like I was a burden to everybody, including myself, but really like looking out into the future and going, I don't have a future. And what is this going to look like? And it was really scary.
Got it. Thank you. I see that. And that's the other piece that that we don't always think about in healing work is it's not just what you're dealing with in your body, but it's the perceived or the real impact on your family and your community and what that means too. Thank you for sharing, Ashley. Now, Bonita, I know, you have had quite a journey, and do you mind sharing some of that with us?
Sure. So in, I would say like a 15-year period, going back, there were three kind of major episodes, I would say. The first two, I dove in with just specific intervention. So it was just like test. I was going to test it and see if it worked, and it worked. So the first one was with Hashimoto's. I discovered a link with Hashimoto's to gluten, and I said, okay, I'm going to try going gluten-free. So I cold turkeyed it gluten-free. I did a 3-year test with my endocrinologist. I presented it to her, and she was very interested. I went 1 year off gluten, did labs, 1 year on gluten, did labs, 1 year off gluten, did labs. And she said, congratulations, you don't have Hashimoto's anymore. And I was off my medicine. The second was, well, it's really undetermined, but a doctor suggested that it was related to Raynaud's, another autoimmune condition. I experienced like a sensory overload in my body. It was nausea for 15 minutes every morning with sweat, and my skin, all of my skin was like, it felt intolerable. I couldn't, it was revolting to live in my skin for those 15 minutes. I had to lay and just hold my hands and my feet off of the bed because I couldn't touch anything. And I ran across some information about the link with dairy and hormones and animal products. And I said, okay, I'm going to cold turkey this. I'm going to cut out all animal. And I think it was in a week, all those symptoms went away. So that was it. That was for that. The third period of time was more of a journey. And that was when my life scaffolding collapsed, when I lost 3 people in death within 6 months. And my sister was diagnosed with brain cancer and had surgery, and I became responsible as a caretaker. And one of the losses was my husband. I lost my husband. And he was the chef in the home. He did all the cooking and the planning. And I just experienced this period of immense grief and stress that affected my health so badly that I woke up one morning locked. My body was locked. I couldn't move. I couldn't move my shoulders. I couldn't move my hips. It took me 45 minutes to try to slither off of my bed, off the foot of the bed, and then another hour just to try to walk around and get dressed. And over some months' time, I was eventually diagnosed with PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica, which is kind of like a fibromyalgia, but in the prime joints. It's what it is. And the proof was there's only one treatment for it, and that's a steroid, prednisone. And in one dose, I was back to normal the next day. So that took a year with that treatment. But that treatment, I had to, but it wreaked havoc on my other systems in my body and my health. And in that time period, I realized that that condition, that PMR, put me at 20% risk of developing another autoimmune condition that could cause sudden blindness. And when I heard that, it was like, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to take care of me? And that's when I had to start not just believing, I'm sorry, not just believing that a plant-based diet was helpful, but I had to start living it. I had to start implementing things on my own and saying yes to myself in amidst all of this grief and this turmoil. So those were the living in my body experiences.
Thank you, Bonita. And you know, we we never have to apologize for our tears. We own them, right? I told these ladies, if we cry, we cry. It's fertile ground, and we have a lot to. You guys have a lot to celebrate. Thank you for that story. That's incredible. It's like 3 different lifetimes of journey, and I'm so glad that you are here and that you got to share that. Um, what about you, Amanda? I know that a lot of people can relate, and you're
Get the
cheerful
tears,
too. Me too.
Yeah, I mean, my journey really began in 2019. I was pregnant with my second baby. Both of my boys, my children, I conceived via IVF, in vitro fertility. And so, you know, I had grown up with a lot of body image struggles and just fixations on how I should be or how I should look or how I should eat. And when I, you know, experienced infertility, then it just became like another layer on top of like this body is just the worst, right? Just had a lot of negative judgments towards myself and my body, and not a lot I knew how I could change anything. Um, but especially when I was postpartum with my second, a lot of the stress of working full time. I also had a fashion blog, so I was out online on Instagram being seen a lot, right? And the ways that I coped with the stress and the overwhelm and that inner voice that was just tearing me apart was through food. And so I would numb and you know, eat in secrecy and profess to love health and exercise and, you know, well-being, but not actually follow it behind the scenes offline. And I really was just struggling with my self-concept and, you know, my self-respect and my self-trust. And I felt very heavy. It was as if I had tried to take on so many things to prove myself to myself, to somebody. And so I not only, you know, gained a lot of weight, but the stress created a lot of emotional and mental weight as well. And I remember a lot of shame. I remember a lot of noise in my mind about, you know, what I should do, what I'm not doing, what I think about all of this, and just, I mean, overall, a lack of boundaries. And I don't think I even knew that word back then, was like understanding what and how to create boundaries for myself, to kind of keep that love inside. So yeah, that's where I was.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. That's very relatable. You know, the the self-medicating, the presenting one thing in public and then being something different, you know, inside, and the conversation. I love that word, the noise, and self-trust. Those are big themes that are gonna come out throughout all of our panels during this workshop. So moving on to question 2. So I get all your beautiful voices in this space. The turning point. So, you know, that was the beginning. And when we're on this healing path, we all have this turning point when things finally shift. That moment when we're starting to take a different direction. And so my question to you is, was there for you a single moment when something shifted? Or did you wake up one day and you realized you were already different? What actually landed for you beyond just the information that you were learning? What was the turning point? Uh, Ashley, I'll start with you again.
Yeah, so for me, doctors kept telling me like, oh, take this medication, and the medications made me feel horrible. I mean, I call myself the side effect queen. If there's a side effect listed on a medication, even if there's one not listed, I will have it, guaranteed. And I'll still have the seizures. So I'll have the side effects and the seizures. So I mean, I would like literally take a medication and I couldn't stop crying. I would take a medication and I would have such incredible brain fog, I couldn't figure out how to put different size vegetables in different size containers. I was just like, these medications are insane. Like I'd have to take a 3 hour nap after being up for an hour. And I was just like, I can't do any more. Like I was still taking the medications, but I was like, I can't, this doesn't work for me. And they were like, okay, well then brain surgery. And I would talk to these people who had had brain surgery and they were like, well, I'm still on the medication. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it's not going to take away the medication. And the rate of success wasn't great. And I just knew that wasn't right for me personally. Not to say that's not right for some people. It absolutely is. It works for some people. But I knew in my heart that that wasn't the right thing for me. So I knew there had to be something else. And that's when I sought out natural healing. And I talked to everybody I met. I was like, do you know anybody who helps with this? Like, there has to be somebody. And I found a functional nutritionist. And functional nutrition actually really helped me. And that was changing my diet, getting rid of gluten, getting rid of dairy. And I was like, whatever it takes, I'll get rid of all sugar, all dairy, all gluten. I'll do anything and I'll take it all out tomorrow. I don't care what it takes. Like, I'm going to do it. And I felt the difference before I saw the difference. I started to feel different on the inside. I started to have more energy. I started to feel like my brain was clearer. I started to like sleep better because I was having a lot of seizures at night too. Like I just knew I would wake up and I'd feel not recharged at all. So I started to feel the difference and I was like, okay, I feel a shift happening. And I was like, okay, I know it's going to take time, but even if I felt like a 1% difference, that was better. And I was like, I'll take it. So for me, it was that feeling. And I was like, I don't care what the other stuff is. I'll make the lifestyle changes. I'll make the dietary changes. I'll do whatever it takes. And it was hard. It was really hard at first. But hard, I'm okay with because life is hard. And my life was so hard at that time that I was like, I'll take hard going the right direction. And
Yeah.
feeling that, there was that feeling.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. It's like what one of our students in that last clip, Tracy, she said, pain pushes. Ocean always says this, pain pushes and vision pulls, right? And that's a really powerful example where you realize I can do hard things because this is harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And momentum makes a big difference. Like, I notice something, something that just kind of give me that light. Beautiful. How about you, Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely relate to that, Ashley. In my journey, I think of something I learned where they say, like, when the pain of the problem becomes worse than the pain of the solution, you'll change, right?
Yeah.
That was very much my experience too. My turning point happened when I joined a 12-step program for food addiction recovery, and something I never certainly saw, and like I didn't even know that existed back then. Um, and so it just kind of came into my life through a friend who had been in one and was seeing results and really was doing the inner spiritual work, like McKinney had mentioned, that I certainly needed at that point. And um, it also helped me to, identify what my values and my boundaries needed to be to help me be myself. So what I remember is a specific point where things shifted was about a month into this program. Abstinence is a tool that we use in a 12-step program where you're abstaining from sugar and flour consecutively. And I remember I was about to drive to one of my meetings and I had a lot of resistance coming up. It was like I had been doing this change with food long enough to have seen results. I was losing weight. I was feeling clearer. I was feeling more spiritually guided. I was feeling so much clarity and conviction. And at the same time, I was like, oh, there's still such a long way to go. And it's really hard. Like, I don't know if I want to keep climbing up this hill because those changes they weren't second nature yet, right? Like I hadn't practiced them long enough for it to become just the way that I work on autopilot. And so I had this moment of decision. I remember sitting in my car and praying, and my higher power, who I call Jesus Christ, spoke to me in this voice in my mind that said, it's not about the food, let me teach you. And it wasn't like this, you better go to the meeting, right? Or you better turn back. It was just like, it's not about the food. Let me teach you. And that has become something I still turn back to when my mind gets noisy, or when I, overemphasize one area and get a little out of balance with my wellness. And it has continued to be this reminder that I am still learning, and I will always be a student. I will always be continuing to learn. There will always be more for me to find out by both study and by experience. But just knowing that, like, that trust, if I can trust in my higher power, then I can put to use what I do know as I continue to learn what I don't yet know. Um, and that really, like, was foundational for me in sustaining the changes I was making.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amanda. Yeah, that thought, it's not about the food, and that is right. That is the surprise that as coaches we bump into when we're finding people, and it's about the food, and then the work that we do is bigger than the food. It's all the things underneath, and then the food comes back in too. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bonita, really quickly, I want to hear your voice on this. What about
Okay.
you? What was that turning point?
Well, I really key was I remembered a book that a friend of mine wrote, and it's called You Can Beat the Odds. She's a behavioral functional medicine doctor. And in that book, she quoted an MD, Bernie Siegel. And I just real quickly want to write, he was talking about achieving your potential. And he said, we can do that when we are capable with when we realize what are we capable of is the question. When one is brought up with love and has self-worth and self-esteem, does not fear becoming a responsible participant in one's life rather than a submissive, suffering patient. And that really hit me because I realized I've got to take some drastic measures to start taking care of myself and not say, this is just how I have to live. This is just not I don't have to accept this as the rest of my life. And so I had to release fear of loss, fear of trying to control other people's circumstances so that I could care for myself. I made changes in my kitchen. I simplified my kitchen, which was hard because of grief, and there was so much connected to my husband as the chef. And I started playing with food. I said, forget the recipes. I'm playing with food. I'm going to experiment. I joined a coach. I had an opportunity to join a coaching, be a participant, and be coached. And that was a real core for me because it gave me confidence. And, all these things. I took cooking courses. I tried to develop skills. But the point is I decided this is enough. I have to do what I have to do to take care of myself.
Thank you. Wow, you guys are so powerful. This is so important. Thank you for those shares, and we are about to wrap up the Q&A part of our conversation. I mean, this panel part of our conversation, but I want to close by combining two questions. So bear with me. That is, so I know at some point this work, this feeling, this turning point, the power, the empowered feeling that you had transmuted into, like, I want to do this for others. I want to coach, I want to help, I want to support other people. And so I guess my double question that I want to hear all your voices on briefly is, what was that, what brought you to coaching? What was that seed that said, I'm going to be a coach? And then for the person sitting in the audience today that is experiencing some of those same things, or perhaps their own thing, and they're just trying to figure out what their next step is, what, as a coach and as a person who lived this, What would you say to them? Okay. Why don't we start with Amanda?
Yeah, when I think about the seed for me, and I've said this, I probably in both of my previous answers, it was trust. I did not realize how afraid I was to trust, right? And I think when it comes to making like physical changes in our lives, whatever that looks like, there's there's a quote that comes to mind from one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, and he says, "To know and not to do is really not to know." And in my experience, that's true. Like I love to learn. I love to, find out about things. I love to learn from other people's experiences. But then when it comes to like taking that leap of faith myself, it is so scary and so hard, right? Um, and that's like where we grow the most. So the seed for me was trust, like trusting the friend that had the experience that she had in my first step of joining a 12-step program, trusting in my higher power when I experienced those changes and I needed to keep going. And then trusting that as I felt the prompting to do something and give from this place, that he would help guide me down that path. And then FRN came into my life, right? So for me, a lot of it is trust. And I really have found that like as I've trusted, people have trusted me. Um, so I guess one thing I would say to anyone who's watching and considering, coaching or taking what they've experienced in their health journey going forward would be not just trust, but like trusting your values. Do you even know what those are? Because I also would profess values and then find that like if I'm really going to live by a value, I most likely have to let go of something else that I value. And again, I want to go to a quote because that's how my brain organizes information. But Brene Brown says, if you choose courage, like choose courage over comfort, but you can't choose both. Like you can't be brave with your life and stay comfortable. And that was very much what my experience was I wanted to be courageous. I wanted to be a person of faith. I wanted to be healthy, but I had to let go of these other things that I also wanted that were lesser in value. And that's a scary thing when you value a lot of things, right? To make those decisions. But I would encourage people to get clear on their values and then make the choices that align to those, and you'll be amazed what will happen.
Beautiful. I couldn't agree more. What about you, Ashley?
So for me, as I was going through this health journey, and as I said, I went to a functional nutritionist and she changed my life. And she knew nothing about epilepsy. And I realized if she can know nothing about epilepsy and my whole world can change and I can have a future again, I have to do this. I don't have a choice. I didn't have an option. I have been a teacher my whole life, and I thought, this is another way of teaching. I have to help, and I went to women because I figure women are the ones, mostly they're the ones teaching their children. They're the ones who they have so much influence on their husbands, which is not to say men shouldn't do this. They absolutely should. But there's so much that the world needs so much help. And there's so many people hurting, and there's so many people who have disease or just don't know how to eat because our world has just gone to all this junk food. Even people who are vegans and they're just eating chips and cookies and they're like, yeah, but it's vegan. And you're like, yes, and um, you see it all day, every day. And I've been in the classroom for years and I see what kids bring and I'm like, do their parents know? And the answer is no, they don't. They don't know. And I thought, how can I help the world be a better place? And so for me, when I learned, because I thought I was eating healthy, I thought I was doing all the right things. I was trying. I was honestly trying really hard to eat healthy, to feed my kids healthy, to do all the things that would make myself healthy and my family healthy. And I had no idea what I was doing because I hadn't been taught. And honestly, nobody knows unless they've been taught. And so I thought, I have to do this. I have to be the change I want to see in the world. And so if you're sitting watching this and you're thinking, that's me. I want to see, I want to be healthy. I want to be truly healthy. And I want to help the people around me be truly healthy because I took the functional nutrition course, right? And I learned how to teach people how to be healthy. But in functional nutrition, you tell people how to be healthy. And in health coaching, you guide people and they choose how to be healthy with your guidance. And it's very different. Both are very valuable, but health coaching really, I feel like changes it turns the dial so much further, so much faster because you're not telling people what to do. People are telling you what they need and you're guiding them. And so I just feel like for me, I didn't have a choice because that's just who I am. And when I saw my life change so drastically and I got my future back, and I thought, I can give people their lives back and they don't even know it. And if I could get to them at the moment of diagnosis, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. It's about knowing you can change the world.
Mhm.
And that's pretty darn powerful.
That's pretty
And
darn powerful.
pretty special.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, be a mechanism in the wheel, for
And what
change.
a legacy to leave, right?
Yeah, yes. Okay, Juanita.
So this theme, about I was my hardest client or my first client, that is true. And I will say that I think I'm going to be my forever client. So there's no end to my continuing to learn and adapt and grow. And as far as taking, I would have never imagined sitting here. This was never in my vision. So that's just an example of how being open to explore and to face your fears and take some safe risks, to pursue something. I did it because I needed support. So when I received the benefit of had the opportunity of being a participant in a coaching program, I experienced how beneficial coaching was. I had never coached. I was exposed to the idea of coaching, but I didn't know what it was. And then when I experienced it myself and the feedback that I got from being in that group coaching program, that helped so much because I couldn't see my strengths. I could only see my weaknesses and my struggles. And the coach was able to, say, okay, I hear all this going on, but what I'm seeing is this. And what I'm seeing is this. And you coming back and you participating and you saying you can't cook and then you're posting collard green pesto on the forum and you're but building that up and highlighting my wins, that gave me the strength to be able to say, to realize that I had these strengths and abilities that I had laid in the foundation long before, but now I needed to tap into them in my new circumstances. And so that is why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I was able to get through a hard time, and I think that anybody can. And there's room to grow for anybody, and we can learn from everybody. So I can learn from my clients, and I think that I have something to share to them, to trust the fears and be willing to face them and say, okay, maybe instead of no.
Absolutely. I always tell my we talk about this and I share with my clients how, not if, what's possible if we throw a little creativity on there. Oh my goodness. You three women blow me away as humans and as coaches. And we are hearing from a lot of folks who have some thoughts and feedback and appreciation of what you're sharing, and so I want to say to the people watching, if you have a question for Amanda, Ashley, or Bonita about their experience, their story, what this program was actually like, please ask in the comment stream. We just have a little bit of time to get to some of those. And I see that we have a couple already. And so, well, mostly shares. Okay, so Anne Marie says, I was just diagnosed with focal, I wonder if that's facial seizures with memory loss. And would I be able to talk to Ashley as her story really resonates? Also, I will really be able to resolve these issues by diet and lifestyle and be able to learn and retain this training so I cannot help just myself but others as well.
You want me to respond to that, McKinney?
I think you can offer a little response, but I think ultimately she wonders if she can reach out to you. And I want you guys to all know that at the end of this segment, we're going to share a slide that has everyone's contact information. And so be ready with your camera or to do a screenshot. That slide will be up briefly, and you can connect with these amazing coaches afterwards for sure. Okay, well, there it is now. Thank you. Thank you so much. So now is the time to take a screenshot if you can. Or just a picture, pull your phone out. I'll keep reading though. Chris says my current struggle is to let go of things that are not adding value to my life. And so I think that you guys definitely kind of grounded that idea. Another question here is from June. She's curious, Ashley, about the functional nutrition course, where it was offered, where you went to school. She says that if so, yeah, she's wondering about your degree with functional nutrition.
Well, that's a totally different thing, and it's actually not offered anymore.
Oh,
There are other programs available, but the one I took has been discontinued.
Okay. And there you have it. But yeah, there are other functional nutrition courses, and some of the point with what I loved about Ashley, what she shared is that it wasn't even about the knowing all about the seizures. It was about kind of the knowing about food and about talking with Ashley and trying a different course. So lots of different ways in. Okay, let's see. Liv says, have you used somatic movements such as drumming to help support rhythm and healing with reflective, creative workshops or events? Have either of you connected with somatic movement or somatic work?
I have. And mostly I think that's, I don't know, all of us as we go through these journeys, we find the different pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together, right? And it's like we won't ever really fully see that puzzle completed, I think. But somatic work was a piece that helped me to recognize like the parts of myself I wasn't really paying attention to before when I was emphasizing food or overemphasizing spirituality, but like disregarding the signs and the language that my body was giving to me. And so learning some of those, I think, are just it's another tool, another piece of the puzzle you can bring in to really understand like overall holistic wellness. And I found that to be really helpful.
And I'd like to just briefly add that I stumbled across, different avenues to help. I learned about my central nervous system and learning how to regulate it and those things. And all those types of practices were really helpful in my journey, and even dance. Just dancing in my own home, in my own way, was an amazing way for me to process my grief and just to allow my nervous system to regulate. So yeah, that's part of finding what supports are good for you.
That's right. Yeah, we're all different, but there's many ways into our body, and kind of learning that and trying things out is part of that journey for sure. One last question before we okay. All right. The last question, maybe just one of you answer, whoever feels most called to it, but how do you market and get your clients? And then another question is, how do I become a client? So again, that slide, if you have the replay, you'll be able to see that slide again and connect with these amazing coaches. But does anyone have any thoughts on how do you market and get clients? What about you, Ashley? I know that you have you're growing your practice.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to market. So many different ways. I talk to a lot of people. I and hand out my cards, right? I also have my website. I also work for different companies, right? Um, and I do some posting on YouTube. Um, so it's kind of a variety of different ways. Um, I would say the vast majority of my marketing is word of mouth, right? Like I've had clients, and then those clients tell other clients about the results that they've gotten, and they come to me and they say, "Hey, I hear you are a functional nutritionist and a health coach. I'm interested in that." And then it's basically just talking to people, and it comes up in conversations where, we're talking about something and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, like, oh, my stomach doesn't feel good. I have such bad acid reflux," or whatever it is. And then I also, because I'm an epilepsy coach, I go to epilepsy meetings and I talk to people with epilepsy, and I let them know that I do natural healing and if they're interested in something like that. So lots of different avenues. It's not just one thing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And honestly, the research shows with coaches is that we do a lot of different work. And that's kind of how we do it. Sometimes we work in the wellness space, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and usually that's what helps. And you do have a beautiful website. Okay. I want to, in a moment, not yet, we're gonna share that slide again. But first, I just want to thank you, Amanda and Ashley and Bonita. Thank you for today. Thank you for your honesty, your courage, and your wisdom to just come up here and share just from the heart. I really appreciate it, and it brings so much depth and hope to everyone on a healing path and curious about coaching others. It's definitely an expansive experience, I hope, for everyone in this room. So thank you for being with us. And to everyone watching, if you saw yourself in their struggles, there is a way through with more support. And if you saw yourself in who they became, that path is yours too. Maybe with us, hopefully with us. But either way, you're in the right place, and you're in the right place today for sure. And so before we close out today, actually, first if you don't mind, let's show that slide again. Okay, and so if you can take your camera out or take a screenshot, you can connect in with these amazing ladies. A lot of our clients are also on the Plantrition website as well. Okay, and so thank you, Ashley, thank you, Bonita, thank you, Amanda. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And before we close out today, I want to set you up for something that I think you're really going to enjoy between today and tomorrow. So whenever you find a quiet window before day 2, I want to offer this exercise. I want to pass the mic to Tracy, who is going to guide you through this exercise. So let's bring Tracy back on the screen. Come on back, Tracy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, McKeany. Thank you, Amanda, Coach Amanda, Coach Ashley, Coach Benita. It is incredible to witness your ability to just share your story and tell your story. I cried multiple times and thought of many, many people that I want you to help and support. And it's just an absolute honor to be here with you. Thank you all. And if you didn't already have a sense, I hope you do have a sense now of what the mentorship looks like from Coach McKeany Duewa. She is just the most incredible, compassionate person to learn from. And yeah, again, an honor to be on the team with her. So now I want to just move on to our next segment, which is going to be about coaching you, about you coaching yourself. This is an audience exercise designed with you in mind to kind of get a little taste of what it's like to build self-awareness. Now, building self-awareness is a primary skill that coaches help their clients learn to do. So, but with as many things, most things, it starts with the self. So in your workbook, which is on the broadcast page, there's a big purple button that says download your workbook here, and we'll also share it again in the comment stream. And if you don't have it handy, you can just use a notebook, and I will guide you through this. You're going to find a section called the coaching exercise. It's a 3-step reflection process modeled on the kind of structured conversation that happens very frequently at the very first coaching session between the coach and a new client. So tonight, if you choose to practice it, you get to be both the coach and the client. Here's what to expect. Step 1, you're going to look at your current reality. You're going to be prompted to identify one area of your health and wellness that you would like to change. It can be physical, mental, or emotional. And yes, relationships count because they often shape our well-being in very direct ways. The questions will ask you how long this has been going on, what you have already tried in this area, and what the impact of this not changing has meant to your daily life. There's also a question that many people find surprisingly powerful, and it's, what is this standing in the way of? So give yourself 3 to 4 minutes on that step. Don't rush it. The more honest you are with yourself here, the more valuable this whole exercise will become. Step 2 is going to be called suspend reality and dream. This is the part people either really love immediately or tend to resist really hard at first. Both reactions are completely normal. You're going to be asked to imagine that every health obstacle has simply disappeared, you've achieved your goal, and you're going to try to describe your ideal state of health somewhere 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. What does that look like? What are you doing? What is available to you that wasn't available before? Why does that matter? A lot of people find that the practical, sensible part of their brain tries to step in and edit this section before they even get started. So I want to give you permission in advance to ignore that voice. And for 3 or 4 minutes, just dream and see where it goes and see what comes up, and actually just let yourself lean into that vision. And step 3 is where we can bring it back down to earth. We'll land the plane, and that's called your 1-year vision. So after you've let yourself imagine this big, long horizon, this step brings it back to, okay, let me define this. What will success look like in this area 1 year from now? Give it a timeline. Maybe it's 6 months. How would you define it? And how is it going to feel when you got there? Why does that matter to you? And at the end of step 3, there's one final prompt that pulls it all together. Summarize your 1-year goal. in 1 or 2 sentences. And you can take your time with that. And you'll get to a sentence that you'll know when it is true because you'll feel it. You'll feel how genuinely and specifically yours it is. And it's one of the most important things that you'll write down all weekend from this workshop. And this whole exercise, if given the space, takes about 15-20 minutes. You don't need a perfect setting. You just need uninterrupted time and a pen in your hand or the ability to type in the workbook we give you. And when you come back tomorrow, bring what you wrote. We want to hear it because day 2 is built around what comes next, how to close that gap between where you are now and where you want to be. All right, before we go, I am going to bring on Ocean one last time.
And I'm here. Wow, I'm just feeling so moved. I have to say that that panel just touched me so deeply. The vulnerability, the depth. I think we're all feeling that, aren't we? And the comments reflect that as well. So I want to hear from you, friends. Go ahead and drop something in the comments right now. Your one big takeaway from today, a sentence, a phrase, a single word, something that is staying with you. Mary said, I relate to Amanda so much and her story, seeing now how it's not just the food. There's the inner parts of me that also need assistance. Marcos said, thank you for sharing your personal experience, truly inspiring. Lisa said, I'm an FRN certified coach, and I want to share that everyone I've encountered at FRN has been amazing, ethical, compassionate, honest, helpful, and knowledgeable. I have no reservations about recommending FRN's programs. Well, Lisa, thank you. That's really touching. We're so grateful that you're part of this with us. Thank you for those sweet words. John said, such impact. These coaches in this session is so helpful, so good. Thank you. Thank you, John. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I just love the comments coming in. I love to hear all of your voices. Joanne said, wow, thank you. Andrea said, agreed, Ocean, such awesome guidances. Shirley said, I can do this. Love that, Shirley. Yes, you can. That is a beautiful takeaway. And Jacqueline said, how much I can change my own health by plant-based living. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Sabrina said, the power to heal. Wow. Jacqueline said, I love the whole program and how those who are healing and helping others. The multiplying effect is pretty awesome. Wonderful work. Carol said, just wow, I'm blown away. Yeah, thank you. Isabel said, thank you. Wow, we have homework for today. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because we want this to be as powerful and transformative as it can be. Not just a little thing you file away somewhere, but hopefully something that actually changes the course of your life. That's what this work does. It moves people. If you're feeling inspired, if you're feeling a seed of potential inside you right now, that is real. Nurture it. Let it grow. And I want to give thanks again to our extraordinary faculty by name before we close. Dr. Michael Clapper, thank you for the clarity and conviction and passion and compassion you bring to this science every single time. Nicole D'Andrea Russert, thank you for making the evidence so accessible and so actionable. Coach McKinney, wow, thank you for holding that space with such warmth and skill and love. Coaches Amanda, Ashley, Benita, thank you for your honesty and your courage. Tracy, oh my goodness, thank you for literally making all of this possible. Not just the certificate, but this workshop and so much else. You are a light in this world. And friends, thank you for being here. Your presence, your comments, your engagement, your participation are warming my heart, inspiring me, and lighting me up. The replay will be available right on this page when we finish today. After, so let me say before you close your laptop or silence your phone tonight, if you can, please do the workbook exercise. What you write there becomes the foundation for what we are going to build together tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, we're going to go deeper into the art and the science of how people actually change and into what it looks and sounds like when a skilled coach helps someone cross that gap. Day 2 is going to ask something of you that today didn't, to turn the lens more deeply on yourself, to sit with the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and to feel from the inside what it's like to really be coached. That's not always comfortable, but it is something you will not forget. So come ready to be surprised by what you are capable of, and we will see you there. Let's do this.
I mean, to be a part of this incredible company that is doing like things that I didn't even know was going on behind the scenes. And the more that Ocean's talked, and the more that all of you have talked, I just keep realizing that there's so much to do. And this is like so part of who I am and aligned with me perfectly. And all of you have just been like beyond my best imagination. And I have high expectations, just so you know, like when I say this, I am someone who has high expectations. So when I signed up for this, I had high expectations. So to go like above my expectations is truly saying something. The coaches, like the mentors, and just the way and the calls and being so supportive. I think like one of the things that the most is like, and Ocean said it, and I was going to say this before even he talked about Maya Angelou, is that I was going to actually quote her. So when he did it, I was like, yes, because it was about how you made us feel, right? I felt so supported. I felt that I could ask any question at any time through multiple ways. I could go on the forum. I could, go on live calls and be like, I'm going to ask this question and I'm not going to feel silly or stupid question. You guys never made us feel like there's no such thing as a stupid question. Like you just, I don't know, the support. And then of course the knowledge, right? The information that was provided was incredible. And I just want to say just a huge heartfelt thank you to everyone that did so much for all of us. And you have shifted my life in many, many ways. My journey did quickly begin. I began getting into nutrition from a Food Revolution Summit, like 6 or 7 years ago, when I was beginning my health journey with some major illness and struggling and just being like, there's got to be a better way. And that got into my email somehow, some way. And I was just like blown away. Whoa. And my journey began. And I've been following everything ever since. So I am beyond proud to be a certified health coach at FRN. Like that just, I just got chills. Say, oh my God, I think that's the first time I said that out loud. Oh, sorry. I just got wicked chills. Like, I'm so proud to be a part of this company. You guys are amazing. Thank you for everything. And what have I become? So much more than I knew was possible. I'm a better coach. I'm a better person. I'm a better friend. I'm a better humanitarian. I'm a better everything. Like you name it. I'm very excited about doing more and more and more with the clientele that I have. And I've already started working on a big program that I'm ready to launch, and you've given me everything. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And then I'm going to put my email. If anyone lives, I know you live in Massachusetts, Tracy, but if anyone lives near the Cape Cod area, I'm in Onset, and you want some support and you want to collaborate, and we can drive and meet somewhere in the middle and just have lunch and just be with a like-minded person that has like the big dreams to change the world and like make a big difference in lives, like please reach out to me, because I am all about it. And guys, we're gonna make a huge difference. Like I can feel it. I am pumped. Like let's go. Thank you so much. Sorry I talked forever, but I'm so pumped. Thank you.
Having been whole food plant-based for over 30-something years and been able to maintain and sustain my health, not on any medication, the only adjustments that I had to make occasionally was maybe some changes in some supplements. That was it. See my doctor once a year and had a lifestyle medicine physician, and that was my goal. My background is in being a hospital administrator and healthcare administrator, as well as a adjunct college professor. So I knew how to instruct, but I didn't know how to coach. So I'm trying to help people, and it just wasn't working. So now you've taught me how to coach. And one of the major parts of this program is that how you have affirmed us and valued us and appreciated us and said, we really believe in you. And I recognize that people really, really need that, because most people walk this earth not feeling affirmed, not feeling appreciated. So I feel honored to be a part of this food revolution movement and a part of your coaching network. And I'm really, really excited. And I ran around telling everybody today that I'm going to graduation. I started to put on one of my graduation robes, but this is really too hot. So I didn't. So thank you so much. You have filled a major gap in my life, and I'm now able to help others. Thank you so much.
Food Revolution Network is a community of nearly 1 million people who are committed to healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. We've sent 1 billion educational messages to activists and change makers in over 160 countries. Our online summits have reached more than 2 million. We've brought more than 300,000 people together for our campaigns for transparent food labeling and to get nutrition taught in medical schools. Worldwide, health and wellness is now a $1.5 trillion per year industry. Never before have so many people been fired up about enjoying a plant-based lifestyle. If you're passionate about helping other people make the transition from knowing what to do to doing what they know, you're in the right place. Join our thriving community as a Food Revolution Network certified plant-based coach. Together, we will help to change the way the world eats. You're going to learn about the fundamentals of plant-based nutrition.
Vegetables, fruits, legumes, calcium and iron, macronutrients, phytonutrients, controversies, and my greatest tips for how to make plant-based eating irresistible.
You'll find out about the art of strategic coaching to fuel behavior change.
A great coach does more than just tell people what to do.
How do you encourage intrinsic motivation?
Coaching is about meeting people where they are, co-creating a personalized plan for success.
And we'll look at proven strategies for making an impact. We want to help you not just make a difference doing good, but also to make a good living.
If you can develop a practice that consistently helps people on a path to health and wellness, you can change their life in an utterly profound way.
So if you want to get real skills in nutrition, coaching, and impact that you could apply in your own life, join us. Our whole team can't wait to see you in the workshop.